was unprepared. When there was a 30-second countdown, I was still unprepared. Good evening and welcome to episode 92 of the Renaissance Men podcast. I am your host, Stuart Garrard. And joining me this week are my good brothers, Seddon and Jimmy.
Hello.
Hello, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Chris Lacey, straight in there. It's like watching the Royal Rumble with the countdown. Yep. And we are the Rey Mysterio of podcasting, coming out at number 30. Yeah. A disappointment to all.
And booed.
Yeah, we didn't get a pop. We did not get a pop there. No. It was interesting because you said there was going to be no music because obviously we'd change a few things around, and we didn't have the usual music that gets me pumped, and I'm like that, ready. Whereas that was
quite technical, wasn't it?
It felt like it was building to something really weird. I didn't know. It didn't feel like it was building to us. It felt like it was building towards
a more sedate experience.
Someone sort of doing a weird dance when it came back on.
Yeah, like
you asked how I was.
Yeah, I did. You went off on a tangent, Jimmy. But how are you, mate? You're right. Good week.
Yes, it's been a good week. The sun has been out. All the kids have been well. I actually managed to get to the pub to sneak a beer or two in the pub garden. Yeah. So that's not that was lovely sitting in the pub garden with John, the other Galaxy head at very, very briefly. Not we didn't get much time together as he's an incredibly busy man like myself, but it felt like a little snippet of normality for a bit. Work was good, and now I'm back here on the podcast, ready to smash it up with my Renaissance brothers.
Yes, well, good to have you, mate. Good to have you, Seddon. You're looking much crisper than you were 10 minutes ago. Thank God for that. How are you?
Not bad, and hoping that the internet survives tonight. After last week's debacle, I found that there's a problem with the internet, and I've had some people out to try and fix it, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not convinced I fixed it myself, but yeah. So if I disappear, you know why, and it's not because I've gone for a cigarette. I promise.
Good to have you both. Like I say, this is episode 92. You will notice look at a nice fresh. Right, look at the room. No holes in the walls.
Have you turned your bed round as well?
I have. Only blade decorated this Saturday. Back-breaking labour.
You didn't mention it at all on Twitter.
Well, I've got to milk it for what it's worth.
No. I didn't see that. Did he keep going?
About every 5 seconds, Jimmy. It's the life of a hardened man having to do
didn't I actually?
Yeah.
Yeah, that Saturday was, okay. My bad. But yeah.
We had good friends, though, and a good podcast, brothers. We just spent the whole time saying, no, we're sitting on the couch watching video games and movies and stuff. just to make it even shitter for him.
Yeah. Fuckers.
It looks great, Stu, and you've got a Stormtrooper painting up.
Thank you. Yeah, that was there before, but thanks. We just put it back up again.
I vaguely remember seeing it, but it's sort of highlighted. And was that yours or was that the missus's?
That's my choice. It's
above. I noticed angle-wise, it's above like the bed, the headboard of the bed as well, isn't it, Stu? So give you something to look at, doesn't it?
Look, sir, droids.
Yeah.
Does that give you a bit of a da 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 da?
That's the pedestrian rhythm I work to.
Unfortunately, he misses every time though. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Now I've said it, Stu.
Nice.
It's there. Da, 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 da.
Oh dear. Oh well, as long as it's like Duel of the Fates, that's quite the rhythm.
For anyone who doesn't know Duel of the Fates, that's quick, isn't it?
Quite the sweat on.
Not after that decorating last Saturday. You can't do that sort of energy again, can you?
Oh, mate, no.
Not for another year.
No, but here we are. This is episode 92. A range of topics this week. We might go wrestling heavy as it's post WrestleMania. But we'll give our final thoughts on WrestleMania. Obviously, we'll go through our what we've been playing and watching this week, and we're going to kick things off as we typically do.
Just quickly, Stu, before you do,
go on, mate.
Before you do, quickly, I'm just gonna, if I disappear for a second, I've just noticed that there's a holy light streaming across me, and I think that's because I've got the window, I've got the blind open. So give us 2 seconds. I'll just do the blinds, but carry on.
We'll do. I'll just remove him from the stream. I love having that power. But yeah, as he does that, Jimmy, we're going to look at the Cult of Egg, the highlights from the Cult of Egg this week, the Facebook group. Yes. And we do have an Ask Us Anything question, which I will. He's back. I was riffing until Seddon puts his bits in. Let me. Yeah. But we missed a question last week from a friend of the show, John Simmons. Sorry, John, for missing your question in the first instance. But it's quite a good one, and I think we're all of an age where it's all pertinent to us. And he asks, how was it acceptable for our parents to rent films that were 18s and full of action for us as kids, but now would be totally unacceptable? I'm assuming you were allowed to do that, Seddon, by your murderous and serial demeanor, but a voice like butter, he says. That's his quote.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't quite say butter.
Lard.
Butterface.
It's got a voice like lard.
Yeah.
Still smooth, but highly fattening.
Wouldn't want to put me in your mouth, would you?
No. But that's an interesting point because I'm assuming you guys are the same. My mum regularly rented us 18s. And as a group of friends growing up down our road, we always used to kind of congregate together and watch 18. So it wasn't just my mum and dad. It seemed like everyone's mum and dad was doing it. What are they up to?
Yeah. Well, I was going to turn to you two as the parents of the show. What are you intend on doing at a certain point? You know, like, because again, you're the equivalency here, aren't you? Like, would you show your kids 18 movies way before time?
I don't think. No, not 18s. I wouldn't do what my mum did to. I wouldn't get my kid to watch RoboCop before they were 10. But I'm a bit, let's say fair with Benji. I kind of just let him. I don't mind him playing Fortnite or watching the Marvel films, which can get a bit, bit tasty at times, can't they? There's full of what's the term the BBFC like to use? Threat. They're full of like terror and threat, aren't they? Really, and lots of killing and shooting and stuff. But I think he's of an age for.
He's ready for it. Give him RoboCop. Come on.
That he can determine between right and wrong. Surely, that'll stand up in a court of law. That's what I think. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, my kids probably watch a few things that are maybe a little bit older than what they should. Like all of my 100, but the youngest ones who are 6, 4, and 2 love The Nightmare Before Christmas. Like they absolutely love it. They sing along to the songs, and you watch. There's the, I am the clown with the tearaway face, pulls off his face, and it's creepy. It is and scary. It is scary, I think. But they love it, and we're like, what if they like it? I like it, and that was always the thing for me. Like I like you guys could watch pretty much whatever I wanted when I was young. My nan used to take me down to Blogsy's video store. That was when I lived in near Southend, and we'd rent. The most common stuff was Arnie movies or Stallone movies. That was common for us. Running Man was and is still one of my favourite films of all time, and Predator. But for me, it was Scary was out, and it wasn't because my parents. They probably would have let me watch a scary film, but that I didn't want to. Like horrors weren't for me, and they're still not really for me. But action and violence, it was, it was just like, it was quite exciting as a kid. Like the gore wasn't a big deal for me as a kid, and I didn't think it was a problem. What was funny though, this was this was a few. This must have been about 7 years ago, because it was before I got with my wife. I was home for Christmas with my mum and dad, and it was about 10 o'clock at night. Me and my mum were up, dad was in bed. She's like, let's have a look what films are on. I do like that, going around my mum, as always, let's look in the magazine. She still gets the magazine, what's going to be on, what films are on tonight. I'm like, well, it's probably on all the time on one of the streaming channels, but let's do it on tonight.
Exactly. My mum's,
yeah. But Trading Places was on, Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, and as a kid, I still do, but I was watching that before I was 8. Trading Places. I always liked Eddie Murphy films, and I think back then it was like Eddie Murphy. What he did, what's quite a child-friendly one? The Sun Emperor of the Sun. What's it?
Golden Child.
Golden Child. That was a bit of an actiony one. Beverly Hills Cop were a bit more family friendly. When you look back, they're not fantastic. But Trading Places.
F-bombs in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But Trading Places, she was like, oh, Trading Places, Eddie Murphy film, 10 o'clock. I was like, brilliant, let's watch it. I used to love this as a kid. She went, all right. And we're watching it. And within no time at all, Eddie Murphy says, mother effer a lot. He says, he drops the N-word a lot. There's topless prostitutes in it. And we're watching it together, cracking up. My mum was like, I let you watch this when you were a kid. I was like, yeah, I used to watch it all the time. I used to watch this all the time. She's like, oh my God. I think parents were just a little bit naive, maybe, or just like, these films, VHSs were relatively new when we were kids in the 80s, right? So I think there was just a bit of naivety to it. But I think that's made me a more rounded individual, being exposed to swearing and violence at that time. I knew what, as you say, Stu, what's right from wrong. And you can I didn't swear in front of my parents till I was about 20. I knew that I wasn't supposed to swear in front of them, but I could see it, but then I see kids that aren't allowed to watch, swearing and stuff, and they will, so.
As Chris says, the 80s were a wonderful time. Another particular highlight for me was when these films would come on BBC or ITV, and the magical dubbing that would happen.
Oh,
still one of my favourite movie moments is 48 Hours, and the poster for it is Murphy and Nick Nolte sticking their middle finger up. And so back then, when they used to cut to the breaks, they'd do the poster, and they actually just basically rubbed out the middle fingers. So it was just Nolte, and then going like that, sticking the fist up. Yeah.
What a great poster! Just both of them doing that.
But it wasn't that. They were just like, they're like, fuck it, we've paid for the poster. We're going to show it. Someone get like a permanent marker and just scribble out the middle fingers. Great stuff.
What you talk about dubbing, the RoboCop on TV. There's a scene where Dick is in the bathroom with someone, and they're talking about his boss, and he's slagging his boss off, and he goes, yeah. And in the actual cut, he goes, once I even called him asshole. And in the cut on TV, he goes, once I even called him airhead. Like that, and that was a version I've seen like after 9 o'clock. No arsehole, just airhead. They had obviously changed it a long time ago and just run with it for years.
I always wanted to meet the the person they got in to do these voiceovers. There's like Dave from accounting or something.
I think for me, one of the big reasons why I was allowed to watch 18s young was we only had one telly, and my dad wanted to watch them, and my mum didn't have a bloody clue. So my dad was just like, I don't give a shit how old you are. I want to watch a new Arnie movie, so it's going on the telly. And and I think that's how I got to a lot of them. And I had an older brother as well, and I think because I had an older brother, he would they'd look at his age and go, yeah, he could probably watch it. And okay, the brother's 4 years younger, but we'll stick him in front of the telly. What could go wrong?
Well, nothing. We're all well-adjusted people. I remember the only film I ever recall my parents asking me to leave the room on was The Devils, with about the nuns. Have you seen that?
I don't remember
it's a weird film, and there is a lot of nuns doing naughty stuff. And I must have been about 11 or 12, and it was and they were like, right, yeah, James, I don't think you should be watching this. I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. Straight up to my room, The Devils.
Yeah.
TV in my room didn't matter. But I do remember another thing. Me and my dad were watching Pulp Fiction for the first time, and my mum walked in at the the gimps there, and they're basically, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, someone gets anally raped, don't they?
Yeah.
Vim Rhames gets anally raped before Bruce Willis comes in with a sword. But my mum walked in at that bit and was like, should he be watching this? To my dad. I was probably about 15, I reckon, 14, 15. I was like, yeah, it's fine. Okay.
He's got to learn, just in case he's ever in this position, and he needs to find his way out of it. He's got to learn.
Yeah. It's a life lesson we're teaching him.
It's funny you say about the horror stuff and the supernatural, though. That was, like, as much as any of the Arnie movies, the violence, the swearing, not really anything that really bothered it. But as soon as there was something devil-related or something supernatural, that's when they would balk at it a little bit. But by that time, you've watched half the movie before they figured that out. So you just go, as you say, you just go to your room and you watch the rest of it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's Pete?
Pete saying if in the old days, if you missed a film at the cinema, you had to watch it at Christmas about 4 years later. It's true.
Yeah.
It really is. I think I watched E.T. for the first time in like the 90s.
I'm glad you said E.T. because exactly the same, because I never wanted to see it at the cinema, and they didn't put it on TV for decade. Well, at least a decade, did they?
Yeah.
And then and then I watched it and it was shit, and I thought, well, glad I didn't watch it at the cinema.
I love it when the very rare occasion I'm on terrestrial television. I'm never on it. I'm like maybe for the Bake Off, but apart from that, I'm never on it. But when sometimes go on it and there's a film on ITV and there's adverts where you can make a cup of tea. There's still, for me, there's still something very nostalgic and special about that, and I do like it. Yeah, I don't enjoy the fact that it's stopping, but nostalgia.
I'm with you, Jimmy. Like, there'll be a movie on that's on Netflix, and I can see the Blu-ray on the shelf 2 meters away. But if it's on ITV, I'll still watch it with the effort.
Yeah. There's something about it. And do you remember trying to record films when you were younger as well? And you'd pause it for the
have a cigarette every 10 minutes. It's brilliant.
He came back with that. Yeah, I've still got a lot of videos, like films recorded.
And you try and stop it in.
Yeah, try and stop it to get the adverts off. But quite often, I mean, I haven't done it for a long time, but a few years back, I did find a lot of VHSs and like Channel 4 comedies were on them or whatever. I'd record. My mum used to record me Friday nights viewing. So I'd go out for a couple of drinks when I was 16, just down the fountain or down the beach or whatever. And she'd record me Frasier and Friends or whatever was on, at that time. And putting those videos on and seeing the old adverts, it's kind of lovely, like seeing those old adverts. Oh, adverts aren't as good as they used to be, are they? Adverts used to be brilliant.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned VHS and taping stuff off the telly. I was watching with Amanda for the first time all the way through Fatal Attraction. It's not a film that's on my bucket list, don't get me wrong. It's I'm a fan of a good thriller. I quite enjoyed it, to be fair. It's but the reason I bring it up at this point is because that is a film that I have seen the last 5 minutes of at least 60 times because at some point my mum or dad must have recorded it. I'm assuming it was my dad. But the bit where in the bath when they can't the crescendo to the narrative comes and they all die, or Glenn Close gets shot and stuff. Spoilers, by the way. I've seen it about 60 times, but it's only because it's kind of whatever was recorded on that videotape was clearly too short, and then at the end you then kind of got this weird mosaic of other films that you'd recorded on that tape, and that was just the one that kind of came right at the end, and I always watched. It's a strange thing. Yeah, kind of
I think the answer to John's question though is just we were sort of brought up in that world where many kids were just left in a car park with a packet of crisps while their parents went in and had a drink, and actually letting your kids watch an 18 at home wasn't really a big deal. And now it's, there's been a lot about how much these films affect people and games affect people, which I don't believe. But it's, we're in a, many people would say a mollycoddled, is that a word? Mollycoddled society. I don't necessarily agree with that statement, but there's certainly a lot more care and consideration when it comes to these things, I think, than there was. But whether that's a better thing or a worse thing, I don't know. I'd rather my kid watched RoboCop than loads of some of the stuff on YouTube and that and this sort of. I love YouTube. Like us. No, I mean, a lot of the dross that TikTok kills me. TikTok kills me. I think that's one of the most repellent things. It's horrible. Well,
one of the big cultural changes, as you say, was Child's Play, wasn't it? And the Jamie Bolger. And I think at that point, I think that really did thrust into the limelight of what showing kids these movies could do. And I'm with you, Jimmy. I never really bought into it. I think, they're going to get that influence from somewhere. If they're going to do something, they're going to do it. And okay, they might be imitating something, but they've still got that kind of natural inclination to actually do it. So, I mean, I'll never have kids, but if I did, I'd let them watch whatever they want. I think within reason, as long as I think they can handle it. And again, I think your kids better, didn't you? For me, it's the nieces, and we always say to them, if there's anything you want to watch, just let us know, and we'll chuck it on. And if they do, but most of the time they'll tell us. They say, "No, we don't want to watch that. Has it got violence in it? No, we're not interested." So I don't know.
What Pete said there is right, though. I say, "Come on, kids, let's watch a movie," and they're like, "No, we want to watch a 4-minute clip of something again and again and again." You're like, but I have found my attention span shortening, as time has gone on. It is because of the internet. It is like you want something immediately,
And I don't know if you're the same, but I find it a lot more difficult these days to concentrate on one. If I'm watching a film, I'm always then just scrolling through on the other hand. Can't see that, scrolling through on Twitter or whatever. It feels harder just to kind of fully focus on one thing at a time these days, but it's just the age we live in, I think, sadly.
Yeah, having multiple inputs, isn't it? I could be watching a really, really compelling, football match, movie, whatever it is, but I'll have the iPad next to me, and sometimes, as sad as it is, I'm even watching a YouTube video while I'm watching something on the
telly. Yeah.
Only multitasking I can do.
Won't do it at work, but at home it's fine.
No, yeah.
No, it's horrible, isn't it? Sometimes I find myself doing it, and I get annoyed at myself for disrespecting the show that I'm watching. If I've got a really good show on, and I'm going, I feel bad. I'm like, I should be paying. I'm not going to get the most out of this. And again, that's why I love the cinema. Phone off, everything off, just concentrate. My wife relaxes by having just something on easy to watch on the TV. And as I've said before, she's a smart girl. She loves good films, but quite often in the evening, she's exhausted from 100 kids. So she'll let's put The American Office on. Let's put Brooklyn Nine-Nine on. Let's put something on that's just in the background. And she's on her iPad as well, playing a game. And I sort of I want her to watch that more, but I also need to go, but she's relaxed. That's how she's relaxing. That's, maybe she needs two things to bombard her at the same time, and for me to shut up, and for her to relax. But
sometimes that factors in my head to the review of it. When we I guess we all do it to a degree of going, did I like this? How good was it? Scores out of 5, 10, whatever. I think
let's not get bogged down with that again.
Let's not go into a scoring system. But I just think if I'm able to, or if I want to during it, start playing another game or do something else, I do actually rate what I'm watching down, because I think it's not been compelling enough to get my 100% attention.
Okay.
What do you do? Do you carve that with a knife into your thigh?
Oh yeah.
The score.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I have to rate RoboCop, seeing as we brought it up, 10.
Oh God.
Out of 5?
No, 10. 10 out of 5. Yeah. I finally got the hang of the system. 10 out of 5.
Right. Let's move on to the next question. Thank you, John, for that. That was a good question. Brought up some good memories, I think. Holly Williams, good friend of the show, asks, what is your biggest fear? And as an add-on, what was your biggest childhood fear? Answer for me, for both, death. So, no, I do genuinely have an irrational fear of death.
Did you as a kid?
I think that's rational, isn't it? Isn't that rational?
Okay. Yeah, I suppose actually, yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, I used the wrong turn of phrase. Yeah, I had, when I was like 15 or so, I had a panic attack at night because I had this realization that when you die, just nothing happens. And it's just like that fear of what happens next. I genuinely had a panic attack when it happened. I think I might have mentioned this before, but yeah, horrendous fear of death. Kind of dissipated as you get older, but
I knew death existed. I wasn't that ignorant to it, but I must admit, I don't think I started thinking of death till probably recently. Probably when COVID happened. Up until then, I thought, that's fine. I'll never die. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So for me, but I think that is now, as you become a parent, I think your fears are then kind of what's going to happen to your kids, or
in a darker place.
Not death. That never really enters your head at any point. But just kind of, for me, it's making sure they're a good human being. That they're a stand-up citizen. They're just kind of nice. A well-respected, well-rounded person. It's not really a fear, but I don't know.
I guess it is a fear. It's a fear that your child doesn't turn into a cunt. I think that's what you're really trying to get across, isn't it?
That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
But I don't.
What about you, Sed?
Spiders now,
yes.
spiders then. I hate. I guess fear initially, but I hate them. I can't go near a spider. And again, that is irrational. I understand. I've heard all of the they won't hurt you, etc., etc. But you put one of those little bastards anywhere near me. But if there's one in this room, I'll never podcast from this room again, or at least not for about 3 weeks until I've told myself that it's moved on with its life and it's never here anymore. And secondary to that, the one that I found as an adult that I didn't have as a kid, flying. I am deathly afraid of flying. I don't think human beings should do it. I think it's craziness. I think boats are the only way we should travel, and cars. And I found that out on my first flight, and it was a 16-hour flight, and I found that out in about the first 5 minutes, and then spent the next 15 hours of it racked with fear. Lovely.
Christ, mate.
Yeah.
I'm with, yeah. I mean, flying. Like, I'm with you on flying. Said, like, I do fly, but I'm not a fan, not in the slightest. No. But it's not my biggest. As a kid, my biggest fear was what's her name? Esmeralda, Griselda, Zelda. Do you remember the show Terrorhawks?
Yes, Zelda from Terror. Oh, Jimmy. Yes.
Yeah. They've actually put that on Amazon Prime, and I watched some of it the other week. Yeah, they put all of it on Prime. It's pretty good, actually. Oh yeah.
Well, I get my iPad and add that to my list.
I had a bit of a recurring sort of dream about her, and I used to live in a pub that was L-shaped with really long corridors, and my dream was that she was at the end of the corridor, which was where the toilet is. So when I had to leave the lounge to go to the toilet, I would run to that toilet, close the door, run back. Like, the amount of times I nearly fell and everything. There was a good few times where my mum and sister shut me out the lounge because I was being annoying. I'm like, let me in. Have you got a picture of her?
I just love the fact that my first instinct was to bring up a picture to show you, but I won't. I won't.
No, I'm fine now. Bring it up. I'm fine. Because also, if you look at because she's an android, isn't she? She's an android. You find out other androids in that show are horrific to look at. I mean, they're puppets, which I know a lot of people have a fear of puppets. No, that's quite a big fear of people. My wife has a fear of puppets, and if she hears one of the kids footsteps upstairs. She's like, go and check what that is. I'm like, it's one of the kids. It's like, could be a puppet. Oh yeah. Well, you can get a better picture of I mean, that's bad enough, isn't it? Like,
it's just like she's going to a wedding, to be honest.
Interestingly enough, I was looking into her after rewatching some of the show, and the show's quite adult, actually. It's more like an adult Thunderbirds. The woman who did her voice also did the voice of the chicken in Return to Oz, which is a scary bloody film, which I wouldn't show to my kids.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I wouldn't show that to my kids for a long time. There's certain films that are just dark on it. I wouldn't show this to the kids either, because she is genuinely scary. Now I'm older. We've gone to 1, 2, 3 instead of 4.
All right, my bad.
Now I'm older. I think it's enclosed spaces, like potholing. The other week I was watching potholing on YouTube on purpose, and I'm watching it going, and the wife, she's like, "Why are you?" I'm like, "Look how small that gap is. Look at it." She's like, "Why are you watching it?" I'm like, "Because I like it's giving me an emotional response. Like it's horrible. Like they're sliding through holes like this big." Men with helmets and I actually went potholing once for a stag do, and horrible. Yeah. So there you go. I went into a bit of detail there. Sorry.
I just actually remembered another one, and it kind of goes back to our first discussion. There was a period after watching America. There's a scene in it at the start, isn't it, where the werewolf, it's like a point of view shot where the werewolf is stalking someone down in the subway. Subway, the underground, I should say. Sorry. And I just had, after watching the film, I always had a fear that someone was following me when I was younger, and I completely think it stemmed from watching that film. So, cheers, Mum. Thanks.
going back to John's question.
Yeah.
Yes, it was wrong of them.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm over that now. So just death is my fear.
Yeah, I'm over it now.
The worst thing is, now someone is following you, Stu. You should be concerned now. But...
Yeah.
What was the comment that Pete just put up there? I missed that.
Oh, Muppets, apparently.
Muppets. Right.
I guess it's not too dissimilar to puppets, is it? Like that.
No. If I meet anyone who understands, I am yet to. Right. Well, no, but some of the Muppets were a bit weird looking. Like I think it's like the uncanny valley thing, isn't it, that they talk about in CGI when it doesn't actually look. It looks like a person, but there's something off about it. And like when I was a kid, like I know I've met a lot of people that say they're not scared of horror movies with creatures. They're more scared of the psychological thing of a murderer. That stuff doesn't scare me in the slightest. But monstrous faces, those faces that are, Sketch Freddy, people like that. That was very difficult for me. Even and clowns as well. Actually, I don't like. Even now, when I come down in the night and I go into the kitchen and look out into the garden, I'm always expecting to see a clown.
Always. Clowns number 3 for me, behind spiders and flying. I fucking hate clowns. They're horrible things.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Just up next, just going to look through a few highlights from the Facebook group from this week. We had a good discussion that we're going to bring up shortly. Actually, excuse me, Windy Pops. About the great WWE cull of 2021. Had some wrestlers sadly losing their roles within the company and their future endeavors. Given company kind of got shot of them. We launched a Twitch channel for the Renaissance Men. I started that up just to have it up there, really, and to maybe get some stuff out on there. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but it's there and we can use it. So would much appreciate a follow. There'll probably be some video gaming content up in there at some point. Just that's probably where the focus of that stuff will be, but we will see in time. I think that's pretty much it from the Facebook group this week. Some good conversation going on there, so come join us. We all get involved and kind of put our thoughts on trailers that we spot or recommendations people have watched,
And a lot of the stuff that we talked about this week is stuff we're covering on the show as well, isn't it? To get a bit of an idea of like how the listeners are actually enjoying the same stuff as we are, or not enjoying it, as the case may be, and getting that on the show for us.
I love it. It's great. This is the most audience participation we've ever had throughout the 6-year history of the show, whatever it is now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, the amount of content we just get from two of those questions there is fantastic, and it's interesting stuff. It's I really love it. So keep your questions coming and keep the comments and discussion going on the Facebook page. It was much appreciated.
On, Stu, with regards to the wrestling, should we agree to sort of keep it to a time limit? Because I think what's happened with wrestling this week, it was obviously WrestleMania weekend. I even brought my wrestling T-shirt to wear if other people were wearing wrestling T-shirts.
Okay, came prepared. Yeah, eat, sleep.
I'm a Lesnar guy.
Yep.
But I know that we could go on for the rest of the podcast.
Yep, I know it's not for everyone, so you're probably right in giving ourselves an enforced time scale to it. Okay, well let's we'll kick it off with what do you want to do? Do we want to talk the releases, or do we want to go straight into our final thoughts on Mania? What you think?
Should we do Mania then the releases? Because I guess some of the people at Mania were released.
One feeds into
not
the other,
many,
maybe.
But some were,
Yep. Okay. Right. Let me just key up my my banner.
Stu, did you watch Mania?
I saw night one. And to be fair, I didn't hate it. It was. I've seen worse WrestleManias. I don't know what you boys think, but I don't really want to get into grading it immediately. But it wasn't the worst edition of the show I've seen. But I don't know. It's just too long. I can't spend 2 nights. If they're 2 nights and like 2 hours each or 2.5 hours each, fair enough. But not 2 nights of what was it?
Close to 4 hours each.
Yeah.
3.5 to 4 hours each.
It was just, it's not something I could commit to really. But
although certainly better than when they were doing the 7 hours one night job. I couldn't go back to that again. That was really, really difficult. Like by hour 4, I was flagging on when they were doing that. Whereas at least I had a gap. But you say about night one, I mean, widely considered, like most of the people who are talking about it, I guess the videos that we watch and the sites we go to, night one seems to be pretty much considered by all as the better of the 2 nights. Strange enough, for me, I preferred night 2. But yeah, like night one seems to be the more highly regarded of the 2 nights. So I think you picked the right one to watch.
Good. Well, let's take it day by day then, I guess. So what do we get on? Let me just get my.
Well, the big thing for me, the opening of WrestleMania, where they had all of the wrestlers out on the stage, which I'm not usually a fan of. I'm usually not a fan of that because I don't like to see my heels and heels and baby faces. That's villains and heroes to anyone who doesn't know. On the same stage together. In my head, they'd be going at each other. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not a fan of that. But this felt like it was quite appropriate because it was the first time, minus NXT, that they had fans back. And Vinnie Mac came out and the fans were all, I think they had about 25,000, I think it was. It's quite a lot.
They're the numbers I heard. I don't know if
they're I think it was 25,000 on the money, although WWE always like to lie a little bit, don't they?
Yeah. But maybe about 20,000. Yeah. 20,000, and you had the screens with everyone on around that. And I actually got a bit emotional because for me, it wasn't WrestleMania. I'm emotional. It was, again, a glimpse of getting back to where we've been. It was like how lovely for me. It was like how lovely for those people to be there. It's the audience. It's been massively missing from WWE. You can't watch any of WWE really and know how to feel because the audience the crowd is a big part of who gets booed, who gets cheered, where the pops are, and you want that as part of the experience, isn't it? And I imagine a lot of people had that with football not so much with football. You know when to cheer because the goals, but still the atmosphere isn't there. And seeing all those people there, and actually seeing some of the wrestlers crying, and then they had a woman with really weird plastic-looking breasts singing America
the Beautiful. Yeah,
America the Beautiful. Even that, and it looked ridiculous. I still got a bit emotional. It was like, we're back. You know what I mean? It was quite a thing for me. So the opening and fireworks and stuff, I was in with that.
Yeah, I think it's not understated just how much the audience brings, not just to wrestling, but to the WWE product. I think, because they're a huge, they of all the wrestling companies, they're all about spectacle, aren't they? Huge kind of pomp and pageantry, and without that, over the last year or so, it has lost something. So to have it back, I think you're right, Jimmy. I wouldn't say I got emotional, but it was really nice to see, despite everyone, or pretty much every other person, not wearing a mask and will probably contract COVID. And possibly.
I was, and I know I'm dead inside, but I was the opposite end of the scale. I hated the opening. I hated Vince coming out. I thought it was, probably what you were saying, Jimmy. I hated all of the wrestlers being out on the stage. I would have probably accepted Vince on his own, but I got the opposite end of emotions. I got to angry, and I was like, "Fuck this shit! Are you going to be pulling this all night?" And unfortunately, they then followed up with, a terrible song, and then they followed it up with bloody Hogan and Titus O'Neil, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And that was after we'd already had we had a 40-minute weather delay, didn't we? And it really started badly for me.
That cracked me up. The weather delay was hilarious. Michael Cole and was it Samoa Joe on the first night?
Yeah.
In their cagoles. Ponchos. Like giant
from the lightning storm. Yeah.
But didn't you find that was interesting how because of the delay, if anyone hasn't seen it, it gave the wrestlers a chance to promo without scripts.
It was rubbish. They all failed.
Well, it was very interesting, wasn't it? You saw who could actually do it and who couldn't. Seth Rollins was very, very weird. His one, that was very bizarre.
Drew McIntyre, corpse almost. Oh God.
One of the problems I had with that, though, and you are right, it gives them a chance to show whether they can do it or not. But let's be honest, we've said this is one of the worst built Manias ever. There weren't many storylines going into it. So, and then they throw them out and say, talk about that storyline that we haven't given you. And I felt so sorry for them having to do that.
Yeah. It was tricky.
Yeah, it was. It didn't get off to the most auspicious starts, did it?
But the first match
was
McIntyre versus Lashley.
Yeah.
About.
It was for WWE Championship as a first match out, and it's sad that Drew didn't. I mean, we speculated whether Drew would get his moment in front of the crowd, but obviously he didn't.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I think I probably was.
But good match. I thought it was a good match, good fight.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say it was a fine match. I've seen him put on better ones before. But again, I think if I'm opening Mania, I'll be a bit like, well, we're not going to put on our best match. We'll save our best match, hopefully, for Mania next year if they get a main event next year. But no, it was decent enough. And I was quite surprised that they gave it to Lashley. I thought there was going to be a transition of champion there.
Yeah. Next up, we had the women's tag team turmoil match, which was to.
I mean, me and Seddon both shaking our heads already on that one.
It felt like it went on for 4 hours. That alone felt like 4 hours. Yeah.
I did like Riot Squad get it. They kind of put up a good fight, but obviously they didn't come out. Because I like Liv and I like Ruby Riot. I think they're a good team. I think they've got a good look and they're all right. I like them.
I thought some of the Billy Kay moments were fine as well. I thought it was quite funny, but it was just such a long match that it was really hard. And I'm with you on the Riot Squad. It was really hard, though, to give anyone credit because you're just going, just end this, please. And then when they ended it, you thought, oh my God, why did you pick them two? Exactly. No one wants to see again, especially not the next night. It was a bad booking choice.
It was and I don't like to speak ill of the women's matches often because they get enough shit. Women's matches, like it's come so far and they've had to work their asses off. but I don't think anyone in that match looked like they were actually hurting each other. They were slow, they were sloppy. I don't know what they've done to Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Are they the Barbie dolls now? Like, and Mandy Rose, bless her, slipped over on the wet stage on the way down. Like, it looked atrocious. The Riot Squad, I think, looked weak. Like, I like the look of Riot Squad, and I do like Liv Morgan. I liked her 24 episode or Chronicle, whatever it was. But their hits were weak as shit. I really liked, what one of the Iconics did. Which one was it?
Billy Kay
coming down with Carmella, copying her moves. I actually was telling my wife about that, saying that was an interesting thing to do, and it wasn't she was just trying to be a pretty woman. It was like the copying, trying to. It was an interesting sort of character thing.
Well, spoilers ahead. It'll be interesting somewhere else soon, won't it?
AEW, yeah. But then you're right. So the winners were Natalie Neidhart, who is Jimmy Anvil Neidhart's daughter, and Tamina, there's no one meaner, the murderer Jimmy Fly Snooker's daughter. And what got me was their music hit, and the opening is the Heart Foundation music, isn't it? The big guitar slide, and then they come down. It's pretty much, it's very similar. She's wearing pink. I actually thought they looked good. That's the best I've seen Tamina look in terms of an outfit. And I think Natty Neidhart's had another breast implants because she looked a little bit top heavy. I don't mean she looked good. I think she'd gone too far. But that's up to her. But then the announcer said, they're shaking off all of the, what has come before them, their lineage, and they're doing their own thing. They came out to the Heart Foundation music. She's wearing pink like the Heart Foundation. She put a sharpshooter on someone, and Tamina does the snooker fly at the end, to land on someone. I was like,
terribly as well. Let's not forget how badly she does it.
Very badly.
Yeah.
How are they shaking off their roots? If anything, they're doing them even more so. It was a bad, slow, sloppy crap match, and that's not just because they're women. Because later on there was a women's match which I was heavily emotionally involved with.
Next up, Cesaro.
Unfortunately, again, I think we go back to the. Oh, sorry, I was going to say you go back to the lack of storylines going into it, and there was no kind of storyline for this, and you just went. There's all those talented people that we would have loved to have seen in a match, and instead we got this for a very long period of time. And I think that was
probably got no rehearsal time or anything.
Probably didn't even know they were in the match till the day, did they? They just went, "Come on, get in the ring, have a go."
Yeah, we've got 14 minutes to kill. Do something for us, will you, girls?
Yeah.
Crack on. Next match, Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. Cesaro defeated Seth Rollins. I missed this.
Good match.
I missed this, I must say. Was it a match of the night? It had that potential, I guess, but was it? Did it live up to that?
It's hard because the main event had such a kind of emotional story moment, and I said, I think, and not to jump too far ahead, but I think comparatively, I think in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, when I watch that main event back, I might then go Rollins and Cesaro was the match of the night for me. But at the moment, I still think that the main kind of beats it in my mind. But I think, again, I got a bit carried away with the moment for the main event. But I really like this match. I like both of the competitors in it. I thought they put on a really good show. Not perfect, and I think they've got better matches in them. But I thought it was a really good match for the time that they gave them to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
You agree with that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, they're both. You forget how good Rollins. You forget how good he is. He's really good, isn't he, Seth Rollins? And Cesaro is exceptional. Sometimes I don't like how clean and perfect everything is that Cesaro does. I'd like to see a bit more brawling in him at some points. Like, it's always the big European uppercuts, the swing. It's all a bit before he does his neutralizer. So it's always a bit too clean cut for me. I'd like to see him let loose a bit and go a bit more stone cold on some people and stomp some mud holes. That said, I thought the match was great. I thought it suffered because of what you were saying, Seddon, how there's no real build up. Like that's a WrestleMania main event. Those two, isn't it? With the belt on Seth and Cesaro taking the belt off him, but there was no real.
One of the problems I had during the match was with the commentary. The commentary was focusing all the way through, kept reminding us how this was Cesaro's first ever singles match at Mania. And as you say, I think these two are good enough to be a main event. Well, don't tell me that the story is that this guy's finally getting a chance at a singles match. You fuckers decide who gets a singles match. Why am I going to feel sympathy? Yeah, it annoyed me. But again, it was great to see him get a singles match at Mania. And I thought that was really good of Rollins, because Rollins easily could have pulled the "I'm the bigger star" card, couldn't he, and taken that win. And I hope they do something with Cesaro on the back end of this, although I do fear it will just revert to normal. We won't see him again on the pay-per-view for a very long time.
Rollins is...
Oh, God, I hope not.
For me, Rollins seems to be taking up that mantle of the Mr. WrestleMania, kind of the guy that was put on the card stealing match, that Shawn Michaels used to have. I can't remember which Mania it was. It's probably like 2 or 3 years ago now, where he had that match with Randy Orton. I think it's the one. I think it's the one where they were in.
That's the one where he does the
RKO out of the curb stomp. That one.
Yeah,
that
was and they tried. Brilliant. They did a similar thing, didn't they, with Cesaro? He went for the curb stomp and he launched him up and gave him a European uppercut, didn't he?
Yeah. So he Rollins is he's good. He's good. Obviously, we know that. Next up, we had tag match for the Raw tag titles, which was AJ Styles. How am I pronouncing this? His partner, is it
Omos?
Omos. AJ Styles and Omos defeated the New Day of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods.
What do you think, Stu?
I missed this one as well. I did watch the first night. I promise you, but I slipped out of consciousness for a teensy bit.
I've listened to Jim Cornette's take on this match, and I often I hate Cornette. Actually, I like listening to him because he's funny, but he's so stuck in the past. But what he said was New Day were the baby faces and AJ and Omos were supposed to be the heels, but it came across the other way round in the match because they just beat up AJ for about 15 minutes until AJ could get the hot tag and Omos could come in and obliterate the New Day, which he did. I thought he looked great, Omos. I'm quite excited to see what he does, actually. Like, they've got a new sort of giant or something, a new potential like Andre the Giant or Big Show when he first came in, or a new big man where you can potentially do some good stuff with if he's good. And I thought he moved a lot better than Carly. I'll definitely give him that. And his face was good. He looked good.
He moved. He moved.
He moved well. A big issue was, when they're in the corner trying to get the tag, when like Xavier Woods is holding AJ away from the corner so he can't get the tag. Omos is like this, just holding the rope like this. And we know that he could hold the string and leaning probably halfway across the ring, the size of the guy, and get the tag. So that took away from it a bit, but I did enjoy it. I'm glad with the win. I think Cornette was right about the switch, but maybe they're trying to turn him face. I don't know. What did you think, Sid?
I thought it was good in-ring action when the New Day boys and Styles are in there, but ultimately I thought it was a waste of AJ Styles at Mania. I'd have loved to have seen AJ get a singles match against someone, and I know they're building like the big man with him, but I think they could have done that with a singles match and like had him interfere. And but it was fine, and I think it was the right result. If you're going to put him in that match, you give it to the heels and you tell the story from that. But I kind of wish, as I say, I wish we'd have seen a New Day against a tag team, like an established tag team, and I wish we'd have seen AJ Styles in another bit on the card.
Well, the rumor was that he approached Triple H. AJ approached Triple H to have a match at Mania with him, and Triple H went, I won't be ready for it. I won't be in ring shape. I won't be
dead.
I won't be there for it.
He said the earth's round, and AJ went matches off.
Yeah, for anyone out there, AJ Styles, one of my favourite wrestlers, is a flat earther.
It makes it really hard, doesn't it?
That really hurt. I told my wife about that. I said, just found out one of my favourite wrestlers is a flat earther. She was like, oh God. I was like,
yeah. It's a heartbreaking moment.
Strowman defeated Shane McMahon in a steel cage match.
Jesus Christ! Did you catch this one, Goo?
No. I tuned back in at Bad Bunny.
I'll be honest. I mean, like, it was this. We said about the women's match, but it was around this point as well where this is why I think I prefer Night 2 more, because I did not like this match. I didn't like the booking going into it. I didn't like the match itself. It took up a phenomenal amount of time for what felt like Shane McMahon trying to give himself another Mania moment. And I got a bit annoyed during this, and I was watching it live, and I must admit I nearly went to bed at this point.
Ooh.
I nearly went, fuck Mania, I'm going to bed. But I stayed through. But yeah, the show really had a big wobble at this point for me.
I don't mind Shane McMahon getting Mania moments, because he does do some good stuff that other wrestlers won't do. And the moment was he's on top of a cage and Braun chucked him, and he did a complete flip and bumped in the ring, which, you know, a lot of wrestlers would do. So I don't mind. I like that. I like him doing that. And I don't mind him being in a match, but he's just got to be in the right match. And you don't put him against a monster. You don't. He's supposed to be smart. Why would he be trying to wind up someone who they've pitched to be an absolute monster who won the tag team belts with a 10-year-old kid? He should just be able to just destroy him, and he didn't. Shane McMahon got so much offense in, and you had two guys give Braun a few whacks with a chair at the start of the match, but still, it didn't mean that Shane should have got that much offense in against him. But one good thing in the match, which I hadn't seen before, was when Shane was over the cage. I don't know if you've seen this, Stu. Shane had pretty much won. He was over the cage. He was on the outside, and he put his hand through to wave bye to Braun. Braun jumped up on the cage, grabbed his hand, wouldn't let him go. And you're like, what's he going to do? Lean over, try and pull him back in. Seen that before. But he grabbed the side of the cage and ripped all the cage off. And dragged him back in through that way, which, as I say, is something I haven't seen done before in a cage match before. So I enjoyed seeing that. But overall, this was dreadful booking and everything.
This was the match as well that had the worst build to it, didn't it? And we talked about a lack of build, but this had a build to it, and what a horrific build! All built around Shane McMahon calling him dumb, and we had weeks of that. And you're looking at all these other matches, that didn't have any build at all, and you thought, well, you could have used some of that time, but yeah, one to forget about for me. But every Mania card's going to have a couple of matches, isn't it, that aren't for you.
But then you say, so it was like Braun was saying, this is for everyone who's ever been called dumb or stupid before, and it's like, this isn't the time for that. You know, Braun isn't the guy for that. It got me when they did this a couple of years ago with Nia Jax, where she was an absolute, destroyer, and they had Alexa Bliss being horrible to her, and it was like, she's different looking, she's weird looking, and I get it that they're bullying, but Nia Jax could have mullered her in no time at all. In real, in a real world, she would have mullered her straight away. So it didn't make sense. That didn't make sense.
They do love that anti-bullying message, though, don't they? Because they do have a big anti-bullying campaign. However, when it chooses them, they'll quite happily have quite open bullying going on behind the scenes. So, it's a strange message. Yeah. Again, it's a bad angle to book.
Yeah. And they put JBL into the Hall of Fame, who was a horrible bully to loads of people.
Yeah. Next up, we had Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, who defeated The Miz and John Morrison in a tag match. Now, this is one I've actually seen, so I can contribute to this. I have two thoughts about this match. I thought Bad Bunny came out looking rather good, but I do think that is on the people around him, mostly. The performance of Miz and Morrison being utmost professionals. So I enjoyed the match on that angle, but I was a little bit disappointed. Damian Priest kind of felt like an afterthought in the match. I don't know what you think about that, and has been throughout the whole this whole angle.
He's injured, isn't he?
Oh, is he?
Yeah. He almost wasn't going to be in the match.
The thought was that he wasn't going to be wrestling at all, and it would have been just Bad Bunny versus.
I take it back.
Yeah. But sense. That said, Stu, you're right. Bad Bunny did an incredible job coming across as a wrestler with some big spots and lots of like. I watched that match with the wife, and she was on her iPad. But I was like, that's a singer jumping off of the top turnbuckle outside. Like, he's a performer. Like, that's, you go and do that. Because anyone can watch that and go, yeah, they're jumping onto mats. They're getting caught. It's like, you go and do that. You go and stand up there and jump off that. What are they up 7 foot in the air, and then you're 6 foot on top of that. Like, no, you're not going to do it. So I was massively impressed, but shocking booking again. Like John Morrison has got, maybe he's happy with what he's doing, and Miz was the champ the other day, and he took the pin from Bad Bunny.
Jimmy, I insist that you call him Johnny Drip Drip.
Yes,
that's what we all know him as. Not John Morrison anymore. Johnny Drip
That was
Drip.
Weird, wasn't it? Yeah, that was weird.
I mean, it is a phenomenal performance from Bad Bunny, isn't it? But for me, again, I was still kind of a bit tapped out at this point because it's the best celebrity performance I think they've ever had of someone coming in the ring. I don't want to see a fucking celebrity wrestle. I want to see these people who are amazingly well trained at this, who spent 20 years of their life honing their craft. But I do understand why the WWE books it, because that got probably a load of eyes on that product. It never did again. But again, not for me. But yeah, a good effort despite it being anti what I want to see.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, moment of the night, night one is arguably the women's SmackDown Championship. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. Bianca Belair defeating Sasha Banks. Hey, I didn't see that coming. Well, naively, I suppose you could argue, but yeah, fantastic moment. If not just a great match, having these two women headline the first night at WrestleMania.
And I was really pleased that they left it as headline, because there had been a lot of rumours that they were wavering as to whether they were going to go with that or Lashley and McIntyre. And I think, they always build those Mania matches as you get a WrestleMania main event. And I think they deserved it. Absolutely appalling booking to get there, though. And I can see why they almost didn't have it as the main event. But I think they've done everything right to justify it being the main event. And again, if I look back at it in 3 weeks, is it as good a match as possibly it could be? No, I think actually sometimes them two can be particularly sloppy. Banks, especially, as good as she is, can be very sloppy in the ring. But they build that pitch up and up and up, and I think they did it perfectly. And I did read some criticism that said because they smiled at each other at the beginning, at the end, I think I saw some criticism that said, no, they're supposed to have this animosity to go for the title. But I thought that bit come across really well, because I thought you had two women in this case acknowledging how big a moment this was for them and how much respect they had for the occasion. And I really enjoyed this. It was a great match.
Those moments like that transcend any kind of narrative storyline you're trying to tell, or kayfabe and all that bullshit.
I watched this match with the wife, and I was pretty much forcing her to watch it, and she watched it with me. And she was trying to debunk it as we went. They've agreed to let them hurt each other. They'll only take as much as they can take. I'm like, that's not true. They'll say, yeah, you can do it, but they don't know they can take what they're going to give. And that whip that Bianca Belair gave with her hair that left a big mark on her, and walking upstairs, Bianca Belair holding Sasha Banks. I mean, she probably only weighs about 100 pounds or whatever, but walking upstairs with her in a gorilla press was incredible. And I said to my wife, I said, watch this match, because it's two incredible athletes. This is a massive thing. This is not only two women headlining WrestleMania. This is two women of color headlining WrestleMania for the strap. And I said to her, Bianca Belair is going to win, just so you know, and she's going to cry her eyeballs out, and it's going to be real. That's going to be true. Her tears are going to be true. It's, you watch Stone Cold's Broken Skull sessions a lot, and he's always like, yeah, that's a shoot. That's real. That's how, it's predetermined, but you're still winning at the end. I just got to shoot for a second, Stu. Can I say that for a second?
Yeah, you go.
I can hear what I need to do.
He was gonna piss it. I let him go before he's gonna say he was gonna piss himself. Quite literally. Yeah.
How did you know that, Stu? Did I miss something on our private chat?
He put it in the private chat.
I didn't even notice. So if I'd have been in charge of his bladder, he'd have actually wet himself live, which I think we all wanted to see. But I guess for night one's sake, I do think it was good. I think it was a good night, but flawed. And I think, as I say, when we come to night two, equally flawed. But I think and possibly it was the pacing and where the bad things happened was slightly different on night two. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I said to you guys, for me, it was a solid 6 out of 10 for an event, which, you always kind of hope Mania will get up higher than that. But shit, I've watched a lot of events that I will score a lot lower than 6 out of 10. So I'll take a 6 out of 10. And as I say, it only really lost 4 points because there were at least 2 very bad matches for me. But I think a lot of the rest of the card delivered on night one.
Let's just bring in some viewer comments at this point. Chris Lacey says night one was okay. Night two was a bit shit. Standouts: Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Seth, and Cesaro. But they fucked the Fiend and wasted him, and the triple threat was boring. So yeah, some key points there, particularly the night two stuff with the Fiend and and also Carl says what is going on with the Fiend. So.
We'll hit that up with the start of night two, won't we? Because that's when night two started.
What is going on with the Fiend? What kind of? Well, I missed. I didn't. What happened?
Basically, Jimmy Wee Wee Pants is back, so I'll add him back to the stream. Yeah.
There we go. Sorry, Jimmy. Hello.
Just in time. We're just going to jump onto night two because we've just done a couple of comments. Oh, okay. So
even when I'm in the toilet, I can hear.
Just don't take the mic in there, mate. That's all I ask.
That is the big. Yeah, that is the big thing. I thought. Ironically, the Fiend and Randy Orton was something that I was kind of looking forward to in a sort of what the hell's going to happen here, because actually the Fiend versus John Cena in that weird cinematic match was actually really quite enjoyable in a weird way, and even.
My wrestling moment of the year last year, I thought it was amazing.
I watched that for the first time last weekend. It is amazing.
Oh, really? Yeah. And they could have done this with Randy. They could have done a similar thing with Randy.
And I think a lot of us hoped that they would, because as we say, Randy Orton has got as much history to him and a lot of bad stories as well. And we saw it all on the Broken Skull sessions recently. So I really thought that's where they were going to go.
They could have also brought Cena back. As like a sort of weird zombified Cena or something, but I mean, as horrible as that sounds, there was lots of options, and it seems like they didn't really do any. And the fact that they changed him back from that horrific look that he had back into the regular Fiend right at the start, I thought was a shame, because I thought his new look was. Stick with it for a while. It was like a Jason sort of thing, wasn't it? Like it was Jason Voorhees thing. His mask was disturbing, his new mask.
It was a very strange start, wasn't it? As you say, Jimmy. I mean, firstly, I think it's worth acknowledging that Randy Orton comes out in, I know it's weird to say, but in white trunks, something he normally doesn't wear. He takes the time to take the piss out of Mandy Rose and pretend that he slips over on the way and show
that. I didn't see that. That's good.
Like, he gives absolutely zero fucks about the match he's about to be in. And unfortunately, that played out in the match because he clearly gave zero fucks about the match he was about to be in. But then we get the Bray transformations, you say, Jimmy, like he's in a kind of metal Faraday cage, something like that. And all of a sudden you get this effect, and then he's just Fiend again. And then Alexa Bliss's music plays, and she comes out and she walks down to the ring, and then she starts playing a giant Jack in the Box that has just appeared at ringside, and then the Fiend appears at the top. Now, some of this actually wasn't bad. I thought that Jack in the Box thing was quite good. Again, except for commentary constantly saying she's standing next to a box-like structure. No, she's standing next to a fucking box, not a box-like structure. But yeah, so the Fiend kind of jumps out, and then Randy's a little bit kind of like put out, where the wrestlers kind of do that. Oh, really? Then his music hits, and then all of a sudden he jumps off the box, starts waving into Randy, and I thought, oh, we've suddenly got something here, and unfortunately we did not. We had a very, very short match where neither of them sold either's offense really at all, which built to a couple of minutes later, Alexa Bliss appearing out the top of the Jack in the Box with black liquid flowing down her head, distracting the Fiend, and then the Fiend gets RKO'd, loses, and then we get a stare down between the two. The lights go out, lights come back up again, everyone's disappeared, and the crowd start booing the shit out of it. And again, I think everyone was just annoyed. They just went, this was nothing.
The black liquid coming out of Alexa Bliss's
terrible
sort of crown.
You know. And again,
looked good. It looked like it.
Yeah, I thought that was a good
theatrically,
look.
It looked good.
Yeah.
You haven't seen part two, Stu, have you?
No, but I've seen bits of this. You know, basically because everyone was shitting on it. So this, I think it's the thing that most people have gravitated to from night 2. Yeah, I note that the match only lasted 5 minutes 50, which kind of says it all, probably, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a shame.
And yeah, it was a shame because we thought there was so much you could do. Whether you like the Fiend stuff or not, whether you like, we've seen them do some very creative things. And don't get me wrong, we've seen them do some bad things in their time as well. I mean, I go back to Orton and Bray Wyatt years ago, where you had the wiggly worms in the ring, and that was equally as bad. But I just felt like we thought it was going to be something more, and it was just such a damn squib. And if wrestling dirt sheets are to be believed, it was changed on the day. And up until the day, it was Bray winning, and then they changed it at the last minute, and they shortened it massively, etc., etc. So I think this was a bit of on-the-fly booking that Vince obviously had one of his famous changes of heart, and probably thought, no, I don't really like the Fiend anymore. So there you go, bang, we're done.
It's crazy because the length of time that storyline's been playing out. And
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and the next night on Raw, Randy came out, didn't he? And went, I beat Bray Wyatt, and that's all done now. So I want to challenge for the championship. It was just done.
Yeah,
crazy.
I think I've got the feeling that Randy had enough of it and went, let's get me out of this storyline, please.
Crikey, we've still got a lot of Mania to go through, haven't we?
Yeah. Let's gloss over the women's championship match.
Dreadful.
Which was terrible.
Which was a shame because they're all talented, apart from Nia Jax. Shayna Baszler, I love, and well, Neidhart is the talented, right? She's good at teaching people stuff, and Tamina's not good, is she? You're right. Shayna Baszler has been massively mistreated, but the match was dreadful. Next,
Owens Zayn with Logan Paul.
And I was going to say very, very, very quickly, I don't want to hang on to the women's one, but this is where, I said I preferred night 2 to night 1. I thought they got all of their shit out of the way early, getting that Fiend and that tag team match out of the way. And I think that's why I like night 2, because I like a lot of the stuff that comes after this. And I'm glad it was done. I mean, on the time I was on Skype with Midge, and we were going, this is awful. But I think after this, there's nothing that's bad after this for me. Everything's okay from this point.
No, Zayn and Owens was brilliant. They're always going to do a good match, aren't they? But just the build again is shit. The reasoning was shit.
I just remember us having conversations on the Botchcast like 3 years ago about we're sick of seeing Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn feud yet again.
Yeah.
And I come back to WrestleMania. Oh, they're fighting again, are they? Okay.
Yeah. Brilliant match, but.
Sheamus defeated Matt Riddle for the US title.
I thought this match was a fucking barn burner. I thought this was awesome. Yes. Okay. Sheamus, as we all know, if you're into wrestling, is an Irish, hard-hitting bastard who is, as they put it, very snug. He's kicked Jeff Hardy's tooth out before with his kicks. Him and Drew have been having some really hard-hitting matches, which you'd expect for an Irishman and a Scotsman who are 6'4" going at it. And you've got Matt Riddle, who is being appalling at the moment on the mic, and anything backstage is dreadful. But
he's a scooter, isn't he? I noticed.
He's on a scooter. He fluffed his lines. Did you see him fluff his lines on SmackDown the other week?
No.
With Asuka.
Oh yes, I did. Yes.
The promo of Asuka, yeah. And she was like, and he went, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot what I was saying, and went off. Like, awful. He's been awful. But he is a ex-MMA fighter. He is legit. He would beat the shit out of anyone who wasn't a fighter. And many people are fighters. He was a very good MMA fighter. So when you've got a hard-hitting Irish bastard and you've got a real MMA fighter, they went at it. There was marks all over both of them. If you ever think that the idea of wrestling is to convince people that they were two people having a real fight, I thought this was it. I used to hate Sheamus. Recently, I've been liking him a bit more with some of his Drew stuff. This was the best fight I've ever seen Sheamus have. And the finish, you haven't seen it, have you, Stu?
No.
The finish, there was a lot of false finishes. And bear in mind, Riddle was the European champion? US. United States champion. The United States champion. I was really hoping they'd put it on Sheamus during this match because of what Sheamus was doing. I was like, oh man, this would be great if it had changed hands. And the finish was Riddle ran up to the ropes, bounced off it somehow, was doing a flip in the air. He was upside down. His face was facing Sheamus, and Sheamus timed perfectly a brogue kick to Riddle's
a volley.
Face.
Nice.
Yeah, out of the air, he went down.
Goal.
Pin 1, 2, 3. Sheamus the new champ. He got out of the ring pretty sharpish. Riddle came up, blood pissing out of his mouth. Sheamus had legit whacked him out the sky. I thought it was a brilliant match because for me it was as close to a real fight in wrestling as I've seen since Walter versus actually Ciampa the other night. So that wasn't long ago. But I don't know. What did you think, Seddon? Sheamus versus Riddle? Man?
I loved it. Again, I think you've got two very talented people. You've got someone who can really, really work hard, like with Sheamus, who's had years of learning how to be that dominant, beating people down. And I think Riddle is a hugely talented fighter. Forget the wrestler for a minute. He's a hugely talented fighter. And I thought they put together a cracker of a match. And like wrestling isn't always just about the end, but as you say, that finish was great, like absolutely great, and I think it just capped off that match perfectly. Yeah, one of the matches of the weekend for me.
Cool.
They don't seem like two guys that would get on well in real life. Do you think that they had agreed to everything because they've gone, look, we can both hit hard, let's just fucking beat the shit out of each other? Or do you think that people have gone to Sheamus, give him some wax, he's a nightmare, and Sheamus went, yeah, I will, and he fought, because there was times when it looked like Riddle was genuinely actually back in his MMA, like, and was like, I'm going to give him some hit, like, and even at the end, if Riddle was acting there about his loss, it was brilliant acting. Or if he was generally really put out the fact he'd been booted in the face. That's the best I've seen Riddle in since he's come on the main roster, and the best I've seen Sheamus. I think the
thing is, his in-ring work is very much like that. So when Riddle was on the Indies, and even not so much NXT, but when he was on the Indies, that's what he did. He fought hard matches, and people would lay it in on him. And I think it is. Again, I think he probably went to Sheamus and said, "Look, just fill your boots," and then they probably just agreed, "We can take it. Let's just knock 10 bells out of each other." And I think it really made for a great match.
Mm. Next up, just one word on the Apollo Crews Big E match. What was a Nigerian drum fight? So I was intrigued.
We still don't know.
Okay, that's worrying.
There was loads of drums on the outside. So it was it was like a street fight, but with a lot of drums around.
Oh, you didn't have to put someone's head through a drum, like.
That would have been good.
Wiley
and for memory, I don't know. And for memory, Stu, no one ever used a drum. I don't remember I don't remember anyone using a drum at any point. They went and got chairs and all that sort of stuff, but no, we still don't know what a Nigerian drum match is.
Good old solid WWE.
A gong got thrown on the floor.
Ooh.
A gong was going to be used, and then Big E knocked it out of his hands, and it made a good noise. But yeah,
on on the pre-show, there was a moment where the pre-show people were, had like Jerry the King Lawler, JBL, all that lot on there, and they're all talking about how none of them knew what a Nigerian drum match was. And then Booker T said about his Nigerian heritage, and I can't remember the exact quote of what JBL said. He said, "We'll go with that because I wouldn't want to talk about this at all because the internet will get me." And I thought, that says it all right there. Like.
Yeah. It was a bad idea, is what it was.
Yeah.
But I thought it was an okay match.
Yeah. And I like the ending as well. They brought in that chap, didn't they?
Yeah. Worth noting that Apollo Crews won the belt through the interference of.
Again, hard hitting as fuck. Hard hitting. That's what I liked about it. It's very hard hitting.
And when you say, what's his name, Stu, we don't know yet. There's rumours that he's had his name changed to Colonel something. Not Sanders, but I'm not sure what it is. But this will be his third name in 1 year. So I wait to see what Colonel will be. Yeah.
And he used Umarga's final move, finishing move, didn't he? Has he always had that? The thumb to the throat?
I don't think he's ever finished a match before. So that's news to him. I think
it was good. He delivered it just like Umarga, didn't he? Sort of put his thumb out and went.
I got strangely obsessed with the fact that his trousers were too short, and I couldn't take him seriously because there was such a gap between his trousers, the bottom of his trousers, and his shoes. I was just like, get the man some trousers that fit.
Right. We're 19 minutes past 8. We've gone well over a mania. Come on, Stu. Okay. Keep us together.
I know. Okay, so one word: Rhea Ripley versus Asuka. Rhea Ripley's the new champ. Was it good?
Fine.
Seddon. Good enough for me.
I'd hope for great. But it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, that's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a
shame. Yeah.
Okay. The three-way, the Roman Reigns, Edge, Daniel Bryan. Rounds off WrestleMania. Was it any good? Was it the main event of main events?
Have you watched it, Stu?
Nope.
Oh, I thought it was messy, but I really enjoyed it.
We said it the other week. You can't have a bad match, I think, with Daniel Bryan in it. I think he's so good. And don't get me wrong, Edge and Roman are good as well. But I think it was a really good match. Was it main event? I mean, I think again it struggled to compete with the night before. You had such a moment the night before that this almost felt a little bit of a letdown, even though it was a really good match. But yeah, I thought they put on a good showing. Didn't like the ending. I thought it was a silly way of doing the ending. But I guess we'll see tonight on SmackDown where they're going to go with the ending. But having him pin both of them was just odd, I thought, and unnecessary.
Pin both of them, yeah. So, Stu, you see that that Roman pinned them both?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
I was going to. So Daniel Bryan.
If
Daniel Bryan gets hit with a chair,
yeah.
Daniel Bryan gets hit with a chair by Edge. He's out. He goes to hit Roman with a chair, but then he gets kicked by Jey Uso. Jey Uso gets smacked out by Edge, and then Roman hits Edge with a chair, and then he drags Edge on top of Daniel Bryan, pins them both. Daniel Bryan's reaction to the chair shot was brilliant as well. He was laying on the floor, sort of convulsing, like he had a brain aneurysm or something. That was really good. Highlight for me of the match was when Edge had Roman Reigns in a crossface for ages, and he's close to tapping out. And then Bryan comes up because he'd been knocked down the outside, comes up, jumps in as well, and also puts Roman in a crossface. They've both got him, and also Edge had used a piece of a metal chair in Roman's mouth, and that couldn't have been planned because that just broke off a chair, didn't it? Yeah. So he put a bit of chair in Roman's mouth like that, pulling him back. Then Bryan comes up, puts him puts Roman in it as well. So they've both got him in a crossface, pulling Roman back. Roman's going, he's got this.
This episode has been full of thumbnail-worthy expressions by Jimmy.
But then Daniel Bryan's going to Edge. He's going, let go, and Edge is going, no, you let go. And they're both pulling him back. Roman's like, let go, and they start headbutting each other. Edge and Bryan are legit headbutting each other as well, weren't they? They were actually headbutting each other. I thought it was a great fun match. for a triple threat, which can be dodgy, I thought there was lots of fun in there.
I think things like that, Jimmy, that moment as well, it had moments that will be played back on video packages over the years. And I think that's one of them, like in a year's time, wherever they are, when they're building up for the next WrestleMania, that will be in a video package somewhere. So, I think they hit story beats well. But as I say, in retrospect, the main event of night 1 probably should have been the main event of night 2.
Yeah. And I was surprised at the win as well. I was surprised that Roman retained. I'm not unhappy. To be honest, I probably would have been happy if any of them winning. I was fine. It didn't, I didn't necessarily feel it needed a change. I like Roman as the champ. I feel that if they wouldn't have brought Bryan in, and it should have been all just Edge and Roman, and Edge should have won. But because it was the triple threat, I was quite fine with Roman taking that home.
Excellent stuff. Well, I hope we've imparted kind of our thoughts on Mania for you. Again, without do we grade it? I don't know if that's a thing that we should be doing. But
6 out of 10 for me, both nights. but Jimmy, the second night was a slightly better 6 out of 10 for me.
I'm loath to ask Jimmy what he scored it, but go on.
I'll give it. I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. There was some bum matches in it, but as far as Mania, I love Mania. The spectacle was good for me. The audience coming back, the crowd being back. There was some. The build-up dreadful, but there were some corking matches both nights. And I prefer 2 nights because it means on the Sunday I can watch some WrestleMania, because I hate it on a Sunday, being it on a Sunday night. I have to all day at work. I have to avoid spoilers. So being able to watch Summer Mania on a Sunday is brilliant. And then, I can watch, a little bit of lunch on the Monday and do the rest in the evening. So I'm happy it's split over 2 nights.
Nice. Without wanting to talk wrestling too much more, but let's it's worth making a passing comment about the releases from this week. Sadly, I think there's more to come. That seems to be the rumor mill. So maybe this might be something we pick up in more detail next week when the full story has been told. But a post-Mania culling by the WWE. Most significantly, I would say Samoa Joe has left the company after being one of your lead announcers on night 1. Mickey James is gone. Chelsea Green, she's gone, isn't she? The list is so vast. I neglect to remember the name, so I do apologise.
Tucker from Heavy Machinery. Mojo Rawley.
And Billy Kay and Peyton Royce.
Of course, yes, the Iconics are gone. But a sad time for them, but also a time full of potential, in their future. There's life outside of WWE. I think, as we've all attested to over the last year or so, we've all been speaking about different kind of promotions that we're watching and enjoying. I just hope they find their feet in a company that will do them well, do them justice. So
I think one of the strange things it was exactly the same date as last year, wasn't it? And this now seems to be that it's a yearly tradition that post WrestleMania they're going to release some people. And you get it in NFL. They always have that after the last day of the last game of the season. That's where all the coaches get cut who didn't do particularly well. It feels like they're doing a tradition like this, but it is a horrible tradition, isn't it? No one wants to be around on the get fired from your job day. But I think you're right, Stu. I think as annoying as it is, and I think a big part of the annoyance as a wrestling fan for this happening is not all of them were great, not all of them will be superstars, but I think in so many of them, you can at least see that there's been a bit of a wasted opportunity there. They've had talents, they've had moments, and you just kind of, you look at some of the people who are left, or you look at, as we said, you built this build to Mania where these stories weren't built up. You could have used some of these and maybe you could have got them over and they could have become stars. But there's an opportunity here for them, isn't there? Now that there are, one of the nice things about the wrestling landscape is with AEW being a legitimate, reasonably high, big size company, and then outside of that, Impact, NWA, things like that, is there is a chance for these people to not only earn a decent amount of money, but let's be honest, reinvigorate themselves.
Reinvent themselves.
go back if they want to one day, and possibly go back earning even more money because they're a bigger star because of it. So I've got high hopes that some of them will land on their feet and do very well. But what a shame, and what a horrible tradition that once a year we fire people.
Yeah. Do you know who I'm most excited about? Sorry, Jimmy, to talk over.
No, go.
Bo Dallas. I think bags of potential.
Don't expect to see him anywhere ever again because he was going to retire from wrestling anyway, and that's one of the reasons why he was cut. Yeah. I mean, and maybe that will change now. Maybe now that he can do it, but that was one of the reasons he was on the cut list. He said he didn't want to go. I think he said he had about another 7 months to a year in him. But that might have been the frustration of not being used. So let's hope we see something out of him.
An injury enforced that, is it?
No, he said he'd had enough, and I think not being used for a long time. So I hope that maybe we'll see something on the back end of this. But
that is sad.
Because I'm with you, Stu, a very talented boy, and it would be lovely to see him do something.
Yeah.
What got me with Bo Dallas? Like I hated some of his Bo Leave stuff, but actually I could see he was talented.
Oh, come on, Bo Leave was awesome.
But I think they massively missed the trick by not having Bray Wyatt, but pre-Fiend or even during Fiend, having like his family, his actual family. Because for anyone who doesn't know, Bo Dallas is the brother of Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, and their dad is IRS. What's his name?
Rotundo.
Mike Rotundo. Yeah. Mike Rotundo, who was very, the IRS character was weird, but as a wrestler, he was solid. Having them in a sort of Texas Chainsaw Massacre style family with IRS at the top and Bo Dallas as a weird brother, and like I thought they missed a massive trick there as having a really interesting weird stable there. And the fact they never teamed Bo with Bray, they never had him in that stable of, that was always weird. I think Joe's been injured for quite some time, right? And obviously can't get clearance. I imagine he'll end up in AEW. I think they'll take him on because he is a big star, Joe, isn't he? He is. He'll bring a crowd.
I think he'll end up everywhere. I think he'll be in New Japan. I think he'll be in AEW. I think he'll be in Impact. I think he will make a lot of money signing individual deals everywhere, and I think he'll wrestle and every card he can get on.
And you sort of like to think that sometimes they might go, well, look, we'll let them go because they can make more money somewhere else. But then you think, really, is Vinnie Mac and Bruce Pritchard really thinking like that? They're not. They're heartless bastards. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
The Iconics will end up in AEW, I'm sure.
I hope so.
They're a good tag team, and they will. Mickey James, I imagine, will just appear sporadically. I love Mickey James. I think she's so good, such a talent. What she did back in the day with Trish was amazing, and I think she's for her age as well. I mean, she looks amazing.
Well, now, it's funny you should say that, Jimmy, because there's some really interesting stuff about Mickey James. She's been saying this over the last couple of weeks, and you said it right there, for her age. And she has been quite vocal in the ages and that's in wrestling. And she said she's younger than most of the main roster men. She's been around for a long time, but she's younger than a lot of I think she's just gone into 40. And Bobby Lashley, the champ, is 45 now, isn't he? So
she's got to be older than that. Hang on, I'll check. But you say that she only had a kid recently, didn't she?
Yeah, I mean, and again, she was talking about the disparity between when women's wrestlers are considered over the hill and when men are, and it was an interesting point.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And again, we've seen her when she's been in the ring, and she's great. She really is good. So
41, you're right.
Yeah, hats off to her, and I hope. Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about this, Stu. I hope she ends up in the NWA, and I hope they give her a really good run in there. I think
she's brilliant. Character-wise, she was so good. She was interesting. She could do storylines. She's, yeah. You're right. I say for her age. I shouldn't say for her age, but
she got
the best wrestlers are sort of in their 30s, aren't they? Mid-30s. That's when they're at the peak. Mid to late 30s. Like, I don't like my wrestlers looking young. When wrestlers have a young baby face, I don't like them. I like them looking a bit grizzled.
Oh, sorry, Seddon.
Sorry.
We both jumped on that comment. Chris Lacey saw Mickey James in the waterfront in Norwich when Nick was in the pants.
I'm very jealous.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I assume we're jealous about the same thing. I would like to see Nick Aldis in Panto.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh no, you wouldn't.
Let's
move on. Let's move on. Right. Yeah, it was always going to be a wrestling heavy show this week. It's WrestleMania season, for God's sake. So I make no apologies.
Well, and also for those who don't like the wrestling, it's another year till it happens again, so you'll get a good few weeks without us banging on about it. So you'll.
Yep. Right, I'm going to ask you boys what you've been playing and watching this week. It might be a curtailed version this week, but let's go with it. Let's run with it. I'll kick things off, and I want to thank Seddon for this one. Because we spoke about Handmaid's Tale. Sorry, you spoke about Handmaid's Tale. God, when was that? A couple of weeks ago? About a month ago, maybe?
3 weeks ago, something like that, yeah.
Not long ago, was it? But
no.
Yeah, and you know, I was very engaged by what you were saying, and I don't know if I mentioned at the time, but I had kind of watched it in passing, as it were. You know, Amanda has watched the whole lot, kind of. Let me just change the banner here. Sorry, I'm getting confused by that. There we go. Yeah, Amanda's watched, you know, every episode, and going back to that kind of multitasking thing, I've had one eye on it, one eye on my iPad kind of thing, and I haven't really absorbed it. So I wanted to go back and actually give it some due time and kind of really get invested in it before season 4 comes fairly soon, I think. But yeah, it's a special bit of telly, isn't it? It really is. That Elizabeth Moss can act. God bless her. God love her. Yeah, it's frightening in that how close to reality it probably really is. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic piece of TV, well acted. You know, I don't think I need to go on about what the show is about because we've spoken it at length previously. But yeah, I'm just wanted to impart how much I am enjoying it and to thanks Ed, and really for bringing it up. And that's what the show is all about, is passing on recommendations to each other. And it's certainly one that I'm gonna continue to watch. I'm only about 3 episodes in on it though, so you know, the Offred hasn't. I'm still kind of in that stage where I can't quite compute how they've got from because they kind of, there's like 2 narratives going on. There's like the modern day, you know, like the past stuff where you kind of see society before it broke down into this weird how would you describe it?
Kind of a dystopian near future, isn't it? Like a world that is very close to what we've got now, but very bleak.
And that's what I'm struggling with at the moment, is trying to make the connection of how the world gets to that point. But they're starting to feed that in a bit, you know, teasing little narrative bits here and there about how the world just kind of goes to shit, and you know, around the birth rates dropping, and you know how that is manipulated by certain parties, and you know, society just kind of crumbles around everything. Quite scary when there's scenes where women are just kind of being sacked because that's kind of what the state is telling them to do. And they're just getting like marched out of their places of work and having their accounts frozen, and all financial control has to go through a partner, a male partner. It's scary stuff. And the scariest thing probably is that you could see that happen.
Well, to say one of the cleverest parts for me in that first series is that I guess I feel a bit of affinity with what you consider the good guy characters, like the people who don't want this to be a horrible world, but you do kind of see that the bad guys, for want of a better term, win because all the good guys just let it happen. Because they all just kind of stand there and go, well, nothing really bad can happen, and someone will stop this. Yeah. And actually, ultimately, it's too late by the time I think they realise how bad it's going to be. And you said about that, about like women just getting fired from their jobs. And you see in that kind of episode when that happens, that people just go, oh, well, it is what it is. It will all get sorted out eventually, won't it? And I guess how quickly we could be, we could go from what we know is the norm today to what the norm is tomorrow. And again, you know, equate it to the world we live in at the moment. We went from being able to leave our houses every day to being locked down for a year, and we just kind of accepted it. And I know there's different reasons why, but yeah, it really kind of interested me how compliant we can be, or probably how passive we can be if someone pushes a strong message against us. But yeah, you said about Elizabeth Moss. I think all of the cast do a great job. I think they really do. I think there's some fantastic acting in it, and I'm really chuffed you're watching it, because we want to watch season 2, because we've only watched season 1, and I think now it's nice because we'll probably so we'll wait for you to kind of get to the end of season 1, and we can, like me and the missus, can pick up season 2 and watch that along with you.
Yeah, it's a sign of a good show when I'm watching an episode a night. Sorry, Jim, go on.
Well, I was going to say, when you say that, how passive we can be as a people and that sort of thing, I'm a firm believer in let's all get vaccinated, let's all get through this, and anyone who thinks that this is a made-up virus is mad, because it's happening in every country. There's peaks and stuff, and who is winning, sort of out of it. Yeah, there are some companies winning, but whatever. But every so often I do sort of stop and go, am I wrong? Am I the idiot? Am I being hoodwinked? Am I the one that's putting? Am I the one having? Yeah, is that? Am I the Mitchell and Webb? Where are they Nazis? Or they've got skulls on their hats, haven't they? Yeah, are we the bad guys? We've got skulls on our hats. Maybe we are. And every so often, and I think it's important. You should go, are we the bad guys? I'm going to do more research and make sure that. But it's just, do you just go with the populace? Are we the bad guys? Yeah. And every so often I do go, wow, am I just getting the vaccine? Because what's Carl said? This is my brother.
He asks, is the book much better? Didn't you just wave it off like that, Jimmy?
Have you?
I've read the book.
No, the COVID vaccine or The Handmaid's Tale.
Strange enough, I do own the book, but I bought it after I started watching the show, and it's almost that. I think sometimes, people will generally say books are better than the movie or the TV show, but because I started with the TV show, I feel like I should watch all of the TV show before I go back to the book, because I almost don't want the TV show spoiled for me now. But certainly, it's a book that I know gets taught a lot in schools now. Like when I said to my nieces about it, they said that they'd done it at GCSE. English and but yeah, it kind of wasn't a book that I did, I guess, when and you imagine it would be like if I like the TV show so much, I can only imagine. And of course, like the book was written 80, I don't know,
I was surprised at how old it was.
And you go, that this is well, and it's very prophetic, isn't it? Because like making that TV show now, you go, okay, we've seen some of these things happen, but the fact that this is based off of a book that was written 40 years ago, I think makes it even more interesting that people saw things akin to this coming down the line. But no, I'm with you, absolutely cracking. I love it.
Yeah. I think not historically accurate because it doesn't depict many kids watching horror films in there about 10 years old. So. yeah. See, the show is it's all a big circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
It rhymes, like George Lucas says. Yeah.
As George Lucas says, yeah.
Right. Let's move on. I'm going to get a bit geeky now. I've been playing some Magic the Gathering Arena. Yeah. Hey, don't look. Hey, have I lost you already?
I'm back in. I'm joking. I do enjoy hearing about your gaming. I like hearing about the game because I don't get to do a huge amount of gaming. So it's
mate.
Lovely.
Okay,
I'm busy preparing for this podcast.
That's where you and I differ.
Trying to get himself in the centre of his camera takes him all week.
Magic the Gathering Arena is a Hearthstoned version of Magic the Gathering. It's their attempts to bring the masses into the I guess a decades-old card game now. They've tried various different formats over the years to try and video gamify Magic to some, to greater or lesser successes over the years. But I think this is a real concerted effort by them to try and do something, by copying Hearthstone format and making it a financial success. And it's pretty good. I think it does. I've only really dabbled with Magic. Magic
You've dabbled with Magic.
Yeah.
Now you're getting interesting.
I've only
dabbled with the occult.
I've only dabbled with the dark arts in passing.
We went and saw short hair, wasn't it?
We went and saw Paul Daniels in Panto. Is that what you mean?
Did. Yeah. Oh, Jimmy. It weren't good. You could tell.
It weren't good, man.
You could tell something went right.
It was on his last legs, and it showed, man. We weren't surprised when we heard the bad news a month later.
Tricks were going wrong.
Is that true? I think you've mentioned it before. You did go and see Paul Daniels, didn't you? Yeah.
But,
I was livid. I wanted my money back, and I kind of wound my neck in when I heard he died.
Someone's one of my friends in the office. One of my friends in the office. Was it Carl? Oh, I can't remember who said it. Someone said it to me recently, but they said Mrs. Merton. Do you remember Mrs. Merton?
Yeah.
Played by Caroline O'Hearn. She interviewed Debbie McGee, and she said, "What?" She was like, "What was it that first attracted you to the millionaire Paul Daniels?"
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. All this conversation is actually far more entertaining than Magic the Gathering itself. But it's I mean, you're a fan of Hearthstone, Seddon. It is no Hearthstone, and I know that is going to be your comeback. It's no Hearthstone.
I would never have said that. I never would have said that. I'm not a one-trick pony. I mean, it's strange, isn't it, though, Stu? Because Magic the Gathering is like, I mean, I never played it, the card game of it, but we know it was massively popular, wasn't it? For a time, I think it was kind of the collectible card game that people were playing. But it was just, I wasn't into playing games at that time. But I can see why, I can see why they're trying to kind of get into this arena. Because, there is a lot of money to be made and it isn't there. And but I tried it a tiny bit. I must admit, I found it quite. God, I'm going to sound like really stupid when I say this, I guess, but I found it too boring. It wasn't colourful and bright enough, and I think I was used to that with Hearthstone of having
fair point.
The sound effects and everything that goes along with playing a card game on a phone or a tablet.
I'm still not convinced how well it translates to a Hearthstone style gaming experience, which you want it to be quite smooth and just kind of quick and easy to dip in and out of. But there's a lot of points where just the way that the game of Magic runs is, there's moments where you have to kind of choose your blockers. Do you want to play an instant spell? That kind of. There's a lot of stop and start going on, and they've tried to kind of smooth that transition between those phases of play out, but it doesn't always work. And I don't know, I'm not completely sold on it. I found myself actually going back to play Hearthstone this week, so that probably says it all, doesn't it?
Come on back to us, Stu. Come on back.
It's just such a refined game, isn't it? It's balanced and refined, and it is just the card game that people just all try to mimic,
to emulate.
So but I did try and stream some Magic the Gathering, but on the Twitch channel it didn't go particularly well. My laptop started producing some kind of steam. It didn't really, but it was struggling to do both that, play the game and stream at the same time, so I knocked that on the head.
Sure, I've only just noticed down the bottom you've asked yourself the question.
I am. I'm going to do that with all of us.
You've written out for all of us, right?
Yeah,
interesting.
I have. Yeah, I thought it's done.
You wait till you see what it's taking your name off, Jimmy, and he's put a dirty curse word instead. It's terrible.
Yes, but that's me. And I will move on to Jimmy now. Jimmy, what have you been up to this week? Anything interesting?
Well, I've been watching. Well, first of all, I just want to do I always, as people, all the fans may have noticed, that I'm always drinking from a mug. And it may be tea or coffee, or it might be something stronger. But this is a mug that my mother-in-law bought me. Can you read that?
Beneath the steely exterior, something of a dashing hero.
Yeah. She got me this one Christmas, and she went, "There you go." And before she gave it to me, she went, "It's a lot of old shit. Like, it's a lot of old nonsense. It's shit, nonsense shit." And I was like, I opened it up, and it's James. Beneath this steely exterior beats the heart of a dashing hero.
Missed that bit. Missed that line.
But as I'm opening it up, she goes, "Yeah, it's a lot of old shit. It's rubbish." But I just wanted a big shout out to my mother-in-law for
She drunk at the time?
No.
Too many sherries? Too many Christmas sherries?
No. Just wanted to buy me a nice present and then go and then shit on it.
Shit. Mother-in-law say.
But what I have been watching was recommended to me by a friend of mine called Alex Roth. Now, you know Alex Roth from school.
Yes.
Usually, I don't mention people's names because I'm always wary to mention someone's name. You know, over the. Well, sometimes people don't want it, but he actually got annoyed. She got me a better one. That's my brother-in-law, Carl.
I apologise for saying that. Yeah. Anyway.
So he got annoyed with me when I didn't mention his name recently for recommending something. But I was talking about Bill and Ted Face the Music, and he was the one who got depressed about it making him feel old. It was him. But he recommended a show to me called The United States of Tara. I'd never heard of this before. It's a show on Amazon Prime. It came out in 2009. It did 3 seasons. It was cancelled, apparently, which is a shame. But it stars Toni Collette, which people may know originally from Muriel's Wedding. You're terrible, Muriel. Aussie actress who's since gone on to do loads of stuff in America and is a big Hollywood star. And you get that quite often where you get these Aussie actors and actresses who are like brilliant, don't you? Like I think maybe because there's a smaller amount, the cream really does rise to the top. Whereas in America, it's just a big mesh of cream and peas. But in Australia, you get that. She's fantastic, Toni Collette. But United States of Tara, it is about a lady who has a disorder known as DID, which used to be known as multiple personality disorder, but is now reclassified as dissociative identity disorder, which I had to write down.
I don't want to clarify. I'm not laughing at the disorder. I'm laughing because I knew Jimmy was struggling to say that. So.
Yeah, I've written it in a note so I could say it. Not identity disorder, but dissociative is a word I've never said before, and that's why it's quite hard. Dissociative identity disorder. Reason being, apparently, why it's known as that now rather than multiple personality disorder is. People who have this disorder, as it's known, they don't. It's not what they have is not another personality, because quite often people will say to them, apparently, because I've been doing a bit of research into the disorder because my wife is studying to be a counsellor. She's looked into it quite a lot, and I didn't want to make too many mistakes. People go, oh yeah, I'm one person at work and I'm one person at home and I'm one person out with my friends. That's all my personalities. This isn't a personality. This is a whole different identity. It's a whole different person. So some people have DID and they may have 20 different identities in that person and in that body, and each identity has its own likes, its own dislikes, its own taste in music, its own taste in food. It could be a man, could be a woman, could be a child, could be someone who is ancient. All very different. But anyway, this show is about Toni Collette. She has a family. She has a husband. She has a daughter played by Brie Larson. And it's quite nice seeing Brie Larson do something pre all this crap she's got from being Captain Marvel. And she has a son as well he's a really nice actor, actually. He was in a show called Atypical, where he plays a young lad with autism, which I've mentioned before, which is obviously close to my heart because I have a son with autism. He's an actor called Keir Gilchrist. Can't even pronounce it. Keir Gilchrist. Don't know where that name is from. But anyway, as a family, and she has these different identities. She has the one that's the personality that has been there since birth, arguably, but then she has these other personalities. One is like a 1950s sort of housewife. The other is a 15-year-old girl who is quite promiscuous and naughty and just wants to go off and do things and drink and smoke and go to the arcades. And then there's another identity called Buck, who is a ex-Vietnam vet who had his dick blown off during Vietnam. And Toni Collette, if you know, like, she's an amazing actor, and she gets changed. That they put on different outfits to play each identity, and the family have to just work around this mum who becomes these different people. And I watched a couple of episodes, and I really enjoyed the show. Everyone is a good actor in it. There's comedy in it. There's some drama in it as well. But I knew that my wife had been looking into this before, because she had talked to me about it, only a few months ago, about people with DID. And I thought, I hope that they're doing the disorder justice, because I don't like it when they don't. Going back to watching Atypical, in the first series of Atypical, no one involved with that show, which is heavily about a son with autism and a family around him, no one involved with the show had autism. They didn't have any consultants who had autism, and lots of the autistic community complained, because it's like, you're not doing a true representation. And I haven't got any problems with the kid who plays the guy with autism, or someone without autism playing someone with autism, as long as the work has gone in and the consultants are there. Like when I watch new Star Trek, I want people who know everything about Star Trek being consultants on Star Trek.
I thought you were going to say you want Klingons only. Like, I won't accept it if there's not a Klingon on set.
But this show, yes, it seems like, from what I've read up, they have consultants who have DID, and it's, as I say, I've only done 4 to 5 episodes, but 2009 it came out, and it's a real, so far it's I think personally it's a really good show. The acting's incredible, the story's compelling. Like, the sad thing is, when people have DID, it's usually because they've been massively traumatized between the ages of about, I think it's between 7 and 10. Like, it's when they're young. And what happens is their identities split up, and some of the identities who live within that person know about these traumas.
Yeah.
And the person who would be seen as the main identity doesn't. They don't remember, there's amnesia. They don't remember what happened to them. And what I've watched so far in this show is the reason why these identities are coming forward is to try and get to the root of why this happened, because she doesn't know why she has these things going, why she has this DID. And quite often there is a protector identity. Someone who will come forward when there's an issue, they get triggered, something will happen, and this protector identity will come forward, who will take control of a situation. And my wife sent me some videos to watch, some YouTube videos of people with DID doing interviews or running their YouTube channels where they switch identities. And it could be, and it can be, we should put these in the links, because there'll be like a young American girl talking about her life with DID, and then suddenly she'll switch to a Cockney man called Carl, who is the protector, and it completely changes. And he's annoyed, he's embarrassed that he's in a skirt, and he'll talk for a while, and in this particular video, then it's swapped to something called a little. The child sort of personalities are called littles, and they could be 6 or 7. So suddenly you've got this 6 or 7-year-old talking through this, who's got control of this body, and it's fascinating to watch these people go through these things. And the reason I wanted to watch these videos and asked my wife, who's, as I say, trained to be a counselor, to show me these videos, to let me look at some good videos, was to make sure that the show I was watching was not doing a disservice to people who have this disorder. And from what I saw, it seems like it's not, because all of her family treat her identities or alters as they called them, you know, alter identities, alters, with respect and are nice to them, and this is a different person now. And all of these people with DID who I watch, and obviously I'm not an expert. I've done, you know, I did a little bit of research, but the big thing they want people to take away from their interviews is that they're not dangerous. Quite often they get that preconception that are you going to turn into someone that's going to hit me with a hammer or something, because of movies have built up that.
Movies haven't helped with this, have they? You look at movies like Split, and I can't remember what the John Cusack one was, but the one where it kind of I think it's Identity, and movies haven't helped, because they always kind of suggest that the end point is a sinister serial killer personality, don't they? So.
Yeah, and all of these people with DID say you know, it seems like most of the time, I'm not going to say all the time, but most of the time these people have this disorder is because they've been traumatized through maybe abuse or rape or something terrible. And I'm sorry to bring the, you know, mood down, but they say we're less likely to do something damaging to someone because the damage is there, and actually most of the personalities are there for protection or to take care of certain scenarios. It's a fascinating subject. As I say, the wife's been looking in for a while. I've been looking at it, but watching this show has made me look a bit more into it. So maybe the show is a good thing because it could let you explore that and try and understand that a bit more. I mean, it's nearly impossible to understand because you can't put yourself in their position, but you can do it. But I highly recommend, at the moment, 5 episodes in, United States of Tara. It's on Prime. It's I think it's beautifully acted, and it's pushed a little bit. Obviously, it's heightened because it is comedy drama, but it's an interesting show, and it does make you think about stuff, which is a good goal of a show, I think.
On your notes, Jimmy, because I mean, you say like 2009, and I guess we don't have this as much anymore, but I think 2009 we were still on the early edges of streaming, and this was a show that I'd read loads and kept hearing how brilliant it was in America, and it never come over here on telly. It was one of those where you just keep your eyes peeled for it, and of course, you know, these things come out on DVD back then or Blu-ray, and you could just buy them, but I think as you're on that tail edge of streaming, you think, this is going to come to a streaming service at some point, so I'll just wait. And I must admit, I didn't realise it was on Prime, so I was really chuffed to see it, because it's one that I've wanted to watch for years, and now that I know that it's on there, I'll finally get around to watching it. But yeah, I think it was, I mean, Sky, all the Sky channels were there, and obviously a lot of American entertainment come over here, but there's certain shows from that era that I just think didn't get picked up, and probably because there wasn't an expectation it would be a blockbuster hit, so you're relying on a channel taking a chance, and not so many did back then. But yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that you're enjoying it as well, because as I say, it's something that I always thought I'd get to one day, but tight bastard that I am, I thought I'll get to it when it's free on something that I already have, and well, voila, now's that time.
Oh, that's great.
Cast, as you say. What a cast! Toni Collette is amazing, and I know Brie Larson got a bit shit post Captain Marvel, but I mean the thing that I always remember her for, which I think was the next thing she did after this show, was a movie called The Room, and she is amazing in it. Like an amazing.
She is a good actor. She is. Yeah. They're also 30-minute episodes, so they're easy to bang out. And for me, Obviously, I'm not there yet, but for a lot of it so far, you sort of go, actually, this looks like a fine way to live, and that's why I want, you know, that's why I was a bit like, can people who have this live quite well and live with partners and things like that? And my wife sent me a video of a husband of someone who has DID, and it seems like most of his he's either a husband or a boyfriend. I think he's a husband. Most of his wife's identities, or alters, are men. But he gives advice to other people who have this, who are in this scenario, and most of it is just be nice to these new people who you're meeting, treat them with respect, because they're going to have different wants and different needs, like just meeting any other person. And that was the other thing, watching these videos of these people with these different identities, was they say that just because that person has apparently been there since the beginning, it doesn't mean that these other people aren't important or don't exist. They're just sharing a body.
Yeah.
They all exist. They're not, we could cure this. And even though it is known as a disorder, and it's been proved in scientific journals and scientific research where they do MRI scans and different parts of the brain light up when personalities switch, there's a lot of evidence that it's real, because you could watch it and go, that can't be real. But there's a lot of scientific evidence that it is real, medical research, it is real. But that they are different people sharing the same body. And that the brain, I was chatting to my wife about it over dinner, and she was just saying how amazing that the human brain can be, that when it suffers trauma, it can create this other identity to help, to take over that situation. Yeah, and it can sort of go, yeah, that maybe that other person, that other identity has been there longer, but it doesn't. Often these people say it doesn't take away from the fact that these other identities are real people. One girl said someone she knew, it took them 4 hours to get down the shops, because they drove to the shops, and when they got there, the other personality took over and was like, "Why the hell am I at the shops?" and drove home again. And then it switched back, and they're like, "We're at the shops," and like sometimes they have to leave notes for each other. That's the thing. There's a lot of comedy in it. You're laughing there, Stu, but it's comedy you've got to take seriously. And you look back to the 90s with something like Me, Myself, and Irene, where it's just pure piss take out of the scenario. And even though actually what set Jim Carrey's character off was a bit of trauma, the actual realism behind this, the trauma is much worse. And I think a comedy drama where you can have fun with the people involved with it, but not laugh at the actual disorder is important in this day and age where we're having more respect about actual people's
I remember, Jimmy,
ways
a
of
while
life.
ago, and it is a good few years ago now, I remember when Ricky Gervais was releasing Derek as a TV series, and I must admit I went into it full of fear, because I liked Gervais, but I also thought this could go really wrong if this isn't treated well and with respect. And I think he did an amazing job. And something you said earlier, and I think that's why shows like this are really important, is that look how interesting this is to you and how engaged you are in it. And then that's based off of like a TV show kind of reflecting it. But as you say, they need to, the word authentic is tough, isn't it? Because I guess unless you are physically going through that, it's going to be a different experience for everyone. But I think it's showing that right level of respect for the content they're doing, and not just trying to get a cheap laugh. As you say, there is inherently funny parts to this that you can laugh at and not feel guilty that you're laughing at it, because it is a funny situation, but you're not laughing at the person, you're laughing at the situation, I guess. I'm really looking forward to watching it, actually. I think that might be my weekend viewing.
I recommend.
Anything else?
That's me done.
Jimmy's done.
Wrestling and that.
Thank
Wrestling
you.
in the United States of Tara.
Thank you, James. Much appreciated. Seddon, what have you been up to?
Well, it has been as Jimmy said, it's been a wrestling heavy week for watching. So I haven't had that much time to slip anything in between, and even so much so. Here you go. Here's a story of how the times are. Last night I said to myself, I'm going to watch something new, and I was going to start Euphoria, Stu. I really was. Then I just started watching YouTube videos again.
He's bladder. He needs to sort that out, mate.
Well, that's going to be. He's still listening to us, but get to the doctors, Jimmy. So there wasn't a lot to watch. I was going to talk about Kong Skull Island, but you know what? I think I will hold back on that until maybe someone else has watched it, because I think potentially it needs a little bit of maybe juxtaposition on it. And I'm glad Jimmy's gone, because I'm probably going to talk about something that he would judge me quite heavily on after I spoke about Love Island the other week. But what I have started watching this week, and thanks very much to Holly Williams on our Guilty Pleasures thread, is
good old holes.
good old holes, a little show called Temptation Island, because I like to keep it in the same landmass, just a different sort of title to it. But this is a strange old show. So the concept for this is there's an island, as there always are in here, and on this island, 4 couples go to the island, and I would say that the 4 couples have different levels of places where they are in a relationship. So some of them are about to get married, for example, and maybe there's a little bit of lack of confidence that maybe one is committed as the other. In some of the relationships, maybe there's been some cheating in the background, but in theory, all of the couples have been together at least a year. So they go to this island, and all of the men of the couples go and stay in a villa, and all the women of the couples go and stay in another villa. And then they chuck in 12 single people into both of those villas and start making them date each other. And then the other halves get to watch these dates to see whether they're faithful or not. And it is supposed to be to test the couples to see if their relationship is strong enough when this temptation is thrown at it. This is a weird idea, isn't it? I mean, this is like, again, reality TV, but this is a really kind of, I watched it and went, oh my God, this is really kind of sick and wrong, because what is the only way this would be entertaining? And that is seeing these couples split up. And
hang on, this is Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah. They go to an island together, and then they tempt Godzilla with a load of feminine, lovely, beautiful monkeys.
I'm joking. I heard everything you said.
But it is it's a strange island. Yeah. Now, Holly said it's one of the guilty pleasures, and again, we've talked about these reality TV shows before. And do you know what? I can see why people get hooked, but it's really horrible. And so I started with episode 1 of season 2, because I felt you probably don't need to see the first season, and you don't. And that was on there. So we watched the first episode, and it has a bit of blind date to it as well. So they get introduced to all these singles, and all of them get to do kind of a really, really embarrassing one-liner about themselves. They kind of go, "Yeah, I'm Chad, and I'm your dream man," and then someone else comes along and just goes, "I'll sleep with you," that sort of thing. It's got that kind of juxtaposition to it, yeah. And
he stole my chat-up line.
Oh, and the only thing I'll say is like, so in episode 1, you just kind of meet them, and then they tell you the rules, and then it kind of ends. So we did watch episode 2, because I did kind of want to see what the format of the show was. And in episode 2, each couple has to pick one of the singles to go on a date on. So they all know this. They have to pick someone. So one of the lasses gets really mardy at her fella because he picks a girl to go on a date with. But she's really, really stroppy about it, and really, really insulted, even though these are the rules of the show that they are on. Spoiler, she's banging someone in bed a few hours later. The first night on Temptation Island, she cheats on her 4.5-year boyfriend with some rando. It was amazing to watch. But I mean, I guess that's what they're hoping for whenever they film it. They're saying, probably when they do the interviews, they probably ask that question of going, would you sleep with someone on night 1? And if they say yes, they go, you're on the island. But
get in there.
But again, I mean, not for me, and I'm not watching another episode of it. But it was an interesting watch, just from that kind of, again, seeing what gets it hooked into people. And as I say, I can see the morbid kind of mean curiosity to it.
Yeah.
But, it's fucking gross, man. It really is gross.
That's the seedier side of reality.
It's horrible. You're talking about, like in my head, I'm going, that would be interesting to see a woman destroy a man's heart and life, and you go, no, I don't want to see that, man. Like, I don't.
And just to clarify, Jimmy, not only does that happen on telly, obviously for the audience, but that night the next day after every date that anyone has, they get him, and like they get all of the 4 male people from the couples and all 4 of the female people from the couples, take them off to a little weird grove and show them one highlight from what their other half had done the night before. So this poor fucker sat there and watched the other 3 fellas' girlfriends. The worst things they did was sort of say, oh, I don't think he loves me enough. His video starts playing and he sees that going on. That what a way to destroy him. But,
it's like Jarhead.
well, and reality TV wise, they ask him just beforehand, what do you think she's done? And he said, oh, nothing. I'm sure she'll be fine.
Oh,
no. Yeah. So really, really horrible stuff. But again, as I say, I can see why it fits into a guilty pleasure. But yeah, again, not for me. Too mean for me. And like, if people are going to be mean, I want it to be a movie where you've got a villain, not to kind of go, let's be nosy and look at someone have their life destroyed from the inside out.
Ruin these people's lives.
Yeah. And as I say, outside of that, not a lot that I got watched. I have been playing quite a lot of, me, always up to date with the current trends and the newest games. I've been playing a game called Ni no Kuni, which was a game that was released on the PlayStation 3. So I'm even 2 PlayStations out here. But it's a grand little Japanese role-playing game, and it's a genre I've always liked. I find I can plough hours and hours and hours into getting my little fella to run around the map and level up and all this. So I kind of like not my little fella like that, you dirty boys. I do like it as a gameplay style, but I hadn't played any for a while because normally they are anything from 60 hours worth of gameplay up, and
time.
It is a heavy commitment of time, but I'd owned this for a very long time, and I'd always wanted to come back and play it. And one of the things that was a real selling point for me is so the game is made by Level 5, but all of the story and the cutscenes are done by Studio Ghibli, which are kind of the Japanese version of Disney, and they make some amazing movies. And so they've done.
My wife loves Studio Ghibli.
There you go. Then get to a PlayStation 3 and get a Ni no Kuni because you'll love it. All the cutscenes are done by it, and it really is Studio Ghibli-esque. The storyline is it could have easily been a movie. The acting can be a movie. So you've got all of this pulling you through the game, and it's a fantastic JRPG as well. And we talked a bit about Pokemon last week, which I said I never played, but it has wrinkles of that as well. So as you go through the world, you can not only do people join your party, but you have these things called familiars, which are quite funny creatures that help you and join you in battles. And, this game has 400 familiars out there in the world that you can find, and you can level all them up. And
wow.
Yeah. And you say, wow, I spent 4 hours the other day just running around in a circle because I knew it was a good place that certain creatures dropped, which would get you good experience to level up your guys, and that's how I spent 4 hours of my life. But look at
that time you've got on your hands. 4 hours.
But yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens when you don't have kids. You can do what you want.
God.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I like about it, as I say, is that not only has it got those role-playing game elements, but that it's just a great story. And I think sometimes some RPGs rely on the gameplay rather than those cinematic elements. But yeah, beautiful and just fun. Like I'm one who, if a game's being a bit boring, I skip the cutscenes. No cutscene skipping. No cutscene skipping in this. In fact, if anything, I'm trying to get through the game because I want to watch the cutscenes. They've done so well.
That's good. That's big for you, isn't it?
My brother-in-law has just put something up there, and he's messaging me as well, saying, because my brother-in-law and his wife and their cat are listening. He said, "Look how active we've been."
Nice.
Hello.
Say hello, Vicky, Freddie, and Luna out there.
Lovely name.
Luna being the cat.
I can say which one's the cat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a bit deflated
Luna.
now.
Yeah.
But they're all at home dressed as cats from the stage show Cats.
From the movie adaptation of the stage show of Cats.
Freddie is dressed as James Corden, dressed as But he's put here, look, best JRPG. Is that what they're called? JRPGs?
RPGs role-playing game and JRPGs Japanese role-playing game because
that's a loaded question.
Quite a distinctive style in the Japanese one. That
takes some time to discuss.
It feels slightly bad doing this about Mid because Mid is really our JRPG big fan, isn't he? I mean, he plays a lot. I mean, for me. What Cole says, I mean, the Final Fantasy series, like they are probably widely recognised as the best. I think certainly from a selling perspective, they're the best-selling series, and there are some fantastic games in the series. What's up to 15 now, isn't it? I think, but there's been some amazing ones. But strangely enough, I think as great as they've been, there was one on the PlayStation 1 called, I always pronounce it Suikoden, but it might be Suikoden, but I loved it. And that's always been my favourite. And I think it was one of the first JRPGs I've played, which is maybe why I loved it. But yeah, that's the one that always stood out for me. Very hard to get hold of now. It is one of those that had wasn't released en masse in the UK, so that if you wanted to get an old copy, if you weren't going to do it by emulator, it does go for quite a bit of money, and the sequel goes for even more because it's got a very limited release over here. But yeah, I think for most people, Final Fantasy series would be right up there. And I think if I'm going to put words in Mid's mouth, I think he'd probably go for the Persona series if he was on. But yeah, they're great games, but you need a lot of time. You're not going to clear one of them in a couple of hours. In fact, for most of them, it takes an hour to get you to be able to even control the game. Most of it has about an hour-long story before you even get into being able to control the character. But yeah, I'm loving it, and I imagine I will probably carry on and put another however many hours I can spare this week into it as
well. I would hate that. I like to pick up a game and just be able to start killing people. That's what I like in a game. And real life. And when I go out of the house.
There's plenty out there for you, Jimmy, to do that. There are plenty of pick up and kill games.
Well, I tell you what I've been looking into since the last week's podcast was Star Trek Bridge Crew. I think it's called Bridge Crew. Is on the Oculus. You know, as you all rightly said when I was complaining that there's no Star Trek. And I've watched a YouTube video on it, and it looks quite fun. Like, even though it looks boring as sin, like you go, yeah, I'm the captain. Hey,
engage.
There's a meteorite. Weapons. Fire that meteorite, and someone else fires, and you go, okay, yeah, good job. Okay, let's go. Like, it looks boring as crap, but I imagine in the Oculus it can be fun. And the guy who I was watching on YouTube, sorry, Stuart, it wasn't you because you weren't doing it,
That's right.
said some of the most fun he's had has been in it, where they've just been having a laugh together because you have to go drop power from shields and do to the AV cannons, you know, like you have to sort of do it. It does look like fun. So I will get that game and I will play it at some point, and I'll finally have a game to review.
Yes, the first Jimmy video game review will be quite something.
Yeah.
I would say stream it, but I imagine like streaming popular stuff isn't the easiest thing to do.
No. Well, I'd rather just my wife filmed me playing it, and we just streamed that.
Mine did.
I think
not you filmed you.
I think that would be really. I think that would be really boring, but still quite funny.
Yeah. Is that it, Seddon, from you?
Yeah, that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Squire. Right, his time has come. It's been asked for in the chat. Chris Lacey asks, "What? No bird news?"
I'd forgotten about that.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got bird news. Jimmy, give us your bird news.
I do have bird news, but what I love is the fact that it got asked for.
What?
For a minute, I thought you were going to disappoint the audience and say you didn't have any.
How amazing is that? I did it 1 week, and I thought it was some cracking bird news. And then the following week, obviously, I forgot because I'm very forgetful as years go on. And this week, I made sure I had some bird news. But the fact that someone actually said bird news, I love the fact. I love that commitment. That man deserves everything. And yes, this week I have got bird news, and I've actually written it down. Hold on, because it is. Oh yes, I've written a note. Lockdown is coming again. So it's more like real news. Okay, so they could use this. We've been in lockdown. We're getting out of lockdown. Lockdown is coming. Not for us, for chickens. There is a lockdown coming for birds because of bird flu. may be coming, maybe about. So they're doing a lockdown for birds. The free-range chickens are being locked down, and they've been given things like footballs to kick about to enjoy themselves. So chickens are being put in the same thing we were put in 1 year ago. Bird news.
I'm so glad I gave it such the build-up.
I've got a question. I've got a question about bird news. Well, why are they putting them in? Why are they putting them in lockdown?
I assume to curtail the spread of bird flu.
Let me tell you, there's concerns for the spread. There's concerns. The expert with the egg in the corner. There's concerns for the spread of bird flu. In amongst this pandemic, there is concerns about bird flu. So chickens are being free-range chickens that we usually buy the eggs from. We go, oh, it's nice that they get to roam around. Boom, being trapped into their little very small pens. All they've got is Netflix. They don't even get Amazon Prime or Disney. They're being shut down because of the panic. Most Thursday nights, they're outside clapping for Bernard Matthew. They're being locked down.
Aren't they all going to end up on a dinner plate anyway?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that their ultimate end point? Yeah. So really, like,
they don't know that. They don't know that.
But not knowing it and it being reality. You know, I just think
it's like us knowing we're going to end up as Soylent Green.
Yeah, but we're just saving them for them to be eaten in 3 months' time. It's not really.
No, but
I don't get it.
You're not going to eat them. You're not going to eat them if they got bird flu.
Bravo.
Yeah,
Bravo.
that is good work.
That's a cracking comment. That wins the egg.
Comment of the night. Comment of the year so far.
Yeah. Leave that up there, Stu. Equivalent of hands, face, space, claws, beaks, cute. That is very good, isn't it? And that's my brother-in-law.
Bravo, sir.
Look at that.
Bravo. Yep, bravo.
That's very good. But that is the bird news. Chickens are being put into. No, is that it? Chickens are going into lockdown. That's something we can all relate to.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Just very quickly, while we're on news, and it's taken a step back to, I can't remember whether it was last week or the week before. Oh God, I probably should remember this better. When Prince Philip died, and there was what was considered at the time a debatable fact about something that Prince Philip had said. And post-show, I was sent the evidence that he did say that thing about the disease. So I just wanted to clarify for listener Elise Page, we do acknowledge, even though we might have suggested on the night that you were talking shit, but actually, yes, it was factually correct.
Well, it was so far-fetched. It was the idea that Prince Philip said, when I come back, if I come back as anything, I want to come back as a virus that takes out some of the population to help with population issues. So it was it was a lovely appropriate.
A lovely article in The Guardian, from him saying it. Sorry I doubted you, Elise.
I hope everyone did their minute silence for him. No, that's coming up, isn't it? Still, there's a minute silence for him tomorrow, I think, or maybe on Sunday. Yeah, we've probably talked through it. My wife,
if I'm out having a cigarette, I might be silent for a minute, but that's more my luck than judgment.
I'm sorry. That's just noises. I did plan on interrupting with something pertinent. I've got an outfinding story for you. I didn't mean to.
Oh, hold on, Stu. One second. Sorry.
Come on.
Sorry, 1 second. I was just going to say. So there's going to be a minute silence for Prince Philip. My wife said to me, "Oh, there's going to be a minute silence for him." I said, "I'm not doing it. Like, I will always do these minute silences for all the people that died during COVID, for people who died during wars, all of this stuff. For Prince Philip, it's sad that he's gone, but I'm out on that. Like, an old racist bastard has died. Yeah, it's sad, but if I'm quiet at a time, as Seddon says, if he's having a cigarette, we'll be quiet. But I'm not gonna stand still for what did he ever do? And that's something out to the listeners. Next week, tell me what Prince Philip did, and maybe I'll go silent for a minute for him. on the show.
And we mean tell us something good that he did, because we know all the bad stuff he's done. We actually want something legitimate, like that it was good.
Yeah. Or tell us the bad stuff. We'll do a minute worth of fucking shots or something.
Yeah. Berating him for being a racist pig.
My own funny story is I quite enjoyed this. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I want you to look at this and give me your immediate kind of thoughts as to what image you are looking at. What are you looking at in this image? Don't kind of look at the. Oh no, I was just going to say, do my tabs on my browser give it away? No, they don't. That's good. Okay, so right, ready? What do you see there? I'm going to quickly remove it. What was it? Was that too quick?
I think it's too quick. Yeah.
Okay. What's that?
A cat in a
Monkeys.
tree.
Okay.
Monkeys?
So you've both gone animal based. It wasn't, but in fact, that is what a lot of people did mistake it for. An animal stuck up a tree. In fact, animal welfare officers were called out to this thing. In Krakow in Poland. But it wasn't a cat. It wasn't an animal in distress. But there's quotes here saying that people aren't opening their windows because they're afraid it will go into their house. No, it's a croissant. Yep. Yep. Someone had tossed a croissant into a tree, and it was mistaken for various things. Birds of prey, Jimmy. There you go. More bird news of a sort.
Bird news. Oh man, that's better than my bird news.
Yeah. Oh no. Not to upstage your bird news, but yeah, my bird news is. Let's take another look. Can I zoom in? Zoom in. There you go. Croissant.
Wow.
That is a. Can I scroll across it? Oh, kind of. Yeah, croissant.
Yeah, you can see it up close, but it does have kind of like a cat hair, monkey hair kind of quality to it.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
tail.
I wouldn't have eaten that croissant if someone put that on a plate in front of me. I'd say no, that looks like a cat.
There we go. That is my and finally story for you all.
Good.
There we go. That is episode 92. Christ. I went back in time to 2015 then for some reason. But yeah, episode 92 is in the books. An eclectic show. I think Benjamin's trying to get in my bedroom.
Let him in.
No.
Live on YouTube.
It's all right. It's all gone quiet now.
Yeah. Well, like my son came in the other day and poked his head in.
Yeah. His mum's either come or he's collapsed in a heap.
He's got the matches. He's got the matches. He's setting fire to your door right now.
But there we go. Episode 92 in the books. I just want to do one thing before we go. I think I've probably lost it now. Yeah, I've lost it. Oh. That's a shame.
Oh,
no, I was just gonna.
Come on.
I want to do a thing where I want to. Oh no, here we go.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Chocolate Eagle Claire. What's that?
Nice. No, pastry based birds.
Oh, you didn't ask us to do that. I would have done that. Hang on a minute. Give me a second.
We didn't ask the Chrissy B to either. He just did it.
Oh, do we not? I thought I had blacked out and someone had gone bird pastry puns.
Okay. Glorious. Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to our patrons. And that's what I want to do. I get people up on the wall of fame. I think it's quite nice to give people a shout out and to give them some props for giving us their hard-earned money each and every month. So thank you to one and all on that list. Your name is up on lights on the Facebook page as well. So thanks for that. Much appreciated as always. And I will look to get working on this year's badges now, I should say. So yeah, there we go. Right. Let me get my notes back up. Where the fuck have they gone? Oh, I've got those. Anyway, let's wrap it up.
God, it's killing
thanks,
me.
Jimmy.
I can't think of any. Pecan squirrel. No. Pecan squirrel. No.
For anyone who wants to hear what Jimmy's pun's going to be, tune in next week and he can deliver it as the opening line.
I'm going to have. I guarantee I'm going to have 5. No, 10.
Bird news, bird pastry puns. it's going to be an amazing week next week for the bird population.
Bird pastry puns are going to have 10. And that's going to take me a week to come out of 10. That's ridiculous. Why have I promised that?
Isn't a tern? A tern's a bird, isn't it?
There is a tern, yeah.
Apple turnover. There you go.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, that works if you know a bird's a tern. I've never heard of a tern before.
I do like that though, Stu, with the way you just deliver that. Go, there you go, done. As if he'd conquered puns forever.
Done his work for him.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Let's key up this ending. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Let's give a shout out to the people in the chat. Thanks, Chris Baxter. Thanks to Carl. Thank you, Chris Lacey. Thanks to Pete Turner. Thanks to Holly Williams.
Despite her spider picture, what a cow.
Yeah.
Praying on my worst day.
Yeah. There. Thank you, one and all. Much appreciated. Until next week. Please take care. And good. I've just realised I don't have an outro song to play. Perhaps I'll just do the countdown again.
Jimmy, sing a song.
No.
Jimmy, sing a song.
Hold on. Let's just get up on YouTube, can't we? Well, hold on. No, shoot. You can't.
I like it. Yeah, do it.
That's meta, isn't it? We're on YouTube.
What's the song called?
What the world needs now is love. Sweet love.
Yeah, I'm not having that because that cheers me up at the end of every Friday. At the end of every hang on, we're
bloody
going to adverts.
Bloody YouTube adverts.
Oh, no, don't say that. We love YouTube, but I'm not going home without listening to the song.
You got it. You keying it up.
There.
I can't hear a word. Oh, there we go. Yes.
It's love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just.
Until next week. It's been a pleasure. We shall return to episode 93 with myself, Jimmy, Seddon, and for anyone who else wants to turn up. So thank you. Take care. And goodbye. There are oceans and rivers enough to